Good afternoon. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We are awaiting President Trump to make an announcement with Secretary Hegseth, the Secretary of War, and Secretary Phelan on a national security matter. So we know in the last few days, Venezuelan tankers being seized by this administration off the coast and just south of the Caribbean, with the USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest combat fleet that's in the region, and also military exercises throughout Central and South America. So a story we've been watching, and some have thought that President Trump would have addressed that back in his primetime address just last week before his trip to North Carolina, where he laid out all of the successes that have happened in roughly 11 months of this administration, now in its second term. But President Trump down there in West Palm Beach, in Palm Beach specifically, just over the bay, where Mar-a-Lago is the southern White House. We'll be watching that very closely. If you caught our weekend coverage of not only Rocky Mount, North Carolina on Friday night for a primetime address by President Trump, but also Turning Point USA's America Fest, the first conference without its great leader, the superstar Charlie Kirk, in what was really a robust and open dialogue within the movement. We will replay during this broadcast an extraordinary speech by the Vice President of the United States to close it out just yesterday in what was, in my opinion, something like citizenship in the Republic, those immortal words uttered by Teddy Roosevelt, to a time for choosing. President Ronald Reagan's immortal words there at the 1964 Republican National Convention. I think this was the most important speech and perhaps the most riveting speech ever presented by the Vice President in now that he has been endorsed in 2028 by Erica Kirk and Turning Point Action, as we watch that closely. So if he chooses to pursue that nomination in less than, gosh, we're getting to 2 years from now. Can you believe it, as we quickly approach the 2026 midterms? Now, we had a surprise guest there at America Fest out in Phoenix, Arizona, who also had robust dialogue and discussion with Erica Kirk, and it was Nicki Minaj, the very famous rapper, someone who spoke common sense to what's happening here in this world and had some choice words for Governor Gavin Newsom of California. If we have cut one ready to play, Mr. Producer, Nicki Minaj joining Erica Kirk there at America Fest out in Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, I'm thrilled to be back in this incredible state with so many proud, hardworking American patriots, which is what you are. And let me begin by wishing each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas. We're here tonight to celebrate 11 incredible months. It's been the most successful first year of any president in the history of our country. Since my inauguration, we've created more than 53,000 North Carolina jobs, including 8,000 North Carolina construction jobs. More than 150,000 North Carolina residents have been lifted off of food stamps. We had men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, crime at record levels, the worst trade deals ever made. And our country was laughed at from all over the world, but they're not laughing anymore. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world because we finally have a president who puts America first.
Thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's that time of year, the togetherness, the sacredness of this holy season, but also the togetherness can get us sick. So All Family Pharmacy with 10% off your must-have medications from Tamiflu to antibiotics, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, much, much, much more. 300+ medications, including emergency medical kits at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 10% off now with code RSBN10. Scan that QR code there and keep yourself healthy. It's no red tape, it's no bureaucracy, simply a pharmaceutical note. And these great doctors that are licensed right here in the United States will send that to your door as soon as they can, just a couple of days, in fact. So it's speedy delivery for generic off-label medications that can make a massive difference if you have those in your medicine cabinet ready to go, or take them on the road with you to make America healthy again. So smart to travel with if you're doing that this time of year. 10% off RSBN 10. Also smart to get that Tamiflu before January and February when the flu season really ramps up. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Also, thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN, who will be the college football championship winner. It's all been lined up after round one for those bowl games. Ohio State Buckeyes, Indiana Hoosiers, the Georgia Bulldogs, who will find their way into the big dance. The NCS championship as well, which is Division I AA, all set for January 5th. It's going to be Montana State and the Illinois State Redbirds. Look forward to that competition as Jensen Wang. Will that be Times Person of the Year in 2025? Well, my Chicago Bears now at 11-4. Can you believe it? If you watched Saturday, what a game that was in Chicago, Illinois at Soldier Field. Will they go on to win Super Bowl championship that is 40 years in the making from Super Bowl 20? My goodness, can Super Bowl 60 be a repeat of the Chicago Bears' famed Super Bowl shuffle team? Kalshi.com/RSBN. Sports, music, politics, and more. Everything for you there at Kalshi.com/RSBN. Thank you to AngelPaste.com as well. The miracle that is the original cream, vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, and the orange option this time of year infused with vitamin C. Good to have on hand for the colder temperatures. Although we're getting a little bit of a warm-up down south throughout the Midwest. I know the West Coast going to be a little bit blustery and have some high winds and some rain come Christmas Day, but this is good year-round, including the facial spray. You can paint the town red. Go check out the great products of this Christian-owned company. They're based in Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America. It's angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us here on the right side of history. Of course, you saw in the last clip President Trump in North Carolina. It was wonderful to be in Rocky Mount to speak with North Carolina GOP Chairman Jason Simmons, to see Michael Whatley as well running for the United States Senate, and congressmen, and including Peter Navarro, the architect of the populist movement, and for the domestic policy that has reshaped America as we know it. So if we go into 2026, a few predictions that could be around the corner. President Trump has not forgotten about Greenland, as he, with cut number 2, Mr. Producer, appointing Governor Jeff Landry of the Big Easy down in Louisiana. I'm pleased to announce that I am appointing the great governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, as the United States Special Envoy to Greenland. Jeff understands how essential Greenland is to our national security and will strongly advance our country's interests for the safety, security, and survival of our allies and indeed the world. Congratulations, Jeff. And there could be no clearer picture between the populist movement and the communist movement in America. Capitalism versus communism. Common sense versus lunacy and pure insanity. That's all happening with cut number 3, as the Republican and Democrat agendas could not be even remotely close. Look at what the GOP Congress has delivered. President Trump sharing historic tax relief to secure borders, safer communities, and with the Democrat Congress obstructing everything along the way. Government shutdowns to impeachments to health care for illegal aliens. We're finding that on a near daily basis as they try to throw any kind of messaging like spaghetti against the wall to see if it sticks. But you now have a party that is really in shambles on the far, far left, controlled by progressives and Islamists and those communists and big government secular believers that want a humanist or a globalist form of government. And Hillary Clinton, in a recent interview, talking just on that it was Caucasian men who went to church, the people who founded this country, who somehow are to blame for getting in the way of their so-called progress. It's amazing how the light, when it hits the darkness, what will be revealed. With cut number 4, Mr. Producer, the fake news headlines, images that we have seen, with Bloomberg actually talking about the U.S. trade deficit unexpectedly shrinking to the smallest since 2020. The Wall Street Journal, U.S. trade deficit falls to a 5-year low. The New York Times, of all places, talking about Trump's tariffs and how the U.S. trade deficit is getting better, going in the right direction. CNBC, lower trade deficit than we expected. President Trump sharing that on Truth Social. And it's because of $18 trillion or so coming into this country thanks to tariffs and amazing deals. What was your favorite trip by this president this year? Was it going to the Gulf states, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar? Was it Europe and meeting with NATO, bringing in $600 billion in new trade deals with Europe, $120 billion relating to energy with NATO and the realignment of that national security pact? The only country that did not want to pay their fair share of 5% happened to be Spain. President Trump said, that's okay. We'll find one way or the other to recollect that money, perhaps through tariffs. The Indo-Pacific trip most recently in Malaysia to solve the problems between Cambodia and Thailand, trade deals that furthered United States relationships with those two kingdoms, to the security pact and the history that we have with the great Japanese people. And Shinzo Abe's very own protege, now as prime minister, pledging her support for President Trump and vice versa as they reviewed the troops on that naval carrier. You also had the South Korean government working hand in hand with President Trump to advance great free trade agreements and fair trade agreements, and they're of the opposite philosophy and party entirely. A liberal Democrat progressive thought pattern there in Korea for the leadership, and yet they want to do due diligence and work with the United States. And that's the same with the AUKUS trilateral security pact between Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia, domestically, probably on social issues as well, very different than President Trump, but understands the importance of working together. As our thoughts and prayers continue to be those who suffered on Bondi Beach and terrible anti-Semitic attack that took place as we opened up the Hanukkah season. President Trump knows in 2026 how crucial it is to re-elect or even elect 2 new offices, people that will put first the America First agenda, the MAGA movement. It's larger than one person and one family in its entirety, as we await the president to make an announcement with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and Secretary Phelan, which will be at 4:30. Stick with us for that. With cut number 5, the Bruce Blakeman endorsement. We had some breaking news on Friday that Congresswoman Elise Stefanik leaving the race for New York governor, and in turn will not run for re-election in Congress either. Bruce Blakeman, the county executive on Long Island, has now received the complete and total endorsement of President Trump for the New York governor's race. And with cut number 5, President Trump taking it to True Social, talking about the success that is Mr. Blakeman on the very popular Nassau County executive running to be the next governor of New York. Bruce is the MAGA all the way, as President Trump put it, and has been with me from the very beginning. As Nassau County executive, he is working tirelessly with the brave heroes of ICE, Border Patrol, and law enforcement to keep our border secure, stop migrant crime, safeguard our community, and ensure law and order. As your next governor, Bruce will continue to fight hard to grow the economy, cut taxes and regulations, promote Made in the USA, champion American energy dominance, strengthen our military veterans, advance election integrity, and protect our always under siege Second Amendment. Bruce Blakeman is a fantastic guy, will win the big November election, and without hesitation has my complete and total endorsement for governor of the once great state of New York. It can be great again. Bruce Blakeman will never let you down. President Trump putting that to True Social just yesterday, and we look forward to that race in the Empire State. Thank you to covepure.com/RSBN, a great last-minute stocking stuffer. Well, it'll be hard to hide in the stocking, but a great gift for those who are hard to shop for. The holiday sale, $250 off right now, covepure.com/RSBN. Wonderful if you're renting as well. It's no larger than your coffee machine or maker on your kitchen counter with the leader in reverse osmosis technologies. It doesn't require pipes or a plumber to install. What you see is what you get there. And what's great about this as well is you can see through the modeling, the heat can go up very fast to 170 and beyond, or very cold as well, as including lukewarm temperatures as well. So you don't have to wait to get your water all hot and bothered on the stove and then wait to steep your tea if you enjoy tea this time of year, as I do. covepure.com/RSBN, really the answer to lead poisoning. We saw this in Flint, Michigan, to agricultural runoff, fluoride poisoning, and hormone disrupting blockers like birth control that get in the water stream because the water filtration systems don't take 100% of those toxicities out. It's really been proven now, and Secretary Kennedy can give himself a pat on the back for dedicating his entire career to making sure poisons get out of our water, our air. It's a bipartisan issue. Make sure you stay ahead of this with Clearwave technology and protect what matters most. Utah and Florida are leading the way with legislation to get rid of the contaminants, especially fluoride in the water. And covepure.com/RSBN with their holiday sale, $250 off right now. A smart way to get ahead of it all. covepure.com/RSBN. Also, Tax Network USA, tnusa.com/RSBN. It's 800-357-1415. Settle your back taxes today. Protect yourself from the IRS. And what matters most, whether you missed April 15th, October 15th, or anywhere in between, now is a good time to talk to the expert patriots, many of whom are accountants or worked for the IRS back in the day. Protect yourself from having a headache when it comes to your taxes. tnusa.com/RSBN. It's Tax Network USA. Thank you for sponsoring us here on the right side of history. And also Venice.ai/RSBN. Whether you're writing emails, to text, even phone calls, sometimes that gets leaked. We're in a digital world. Make sure you protect yourself. And with artificial intelligence having so many opportunities and so many fearful things on the horizon, make sure that you work with a company that literally protects you, the American people. Venice.ai/RSBN. It's 20% off with code RSBN. And protect your freedoms and make sure that people aren't spying on your phone. That can happen in this day and age. And again, with leaked emails and texts and phone calls, you don't want any hassle. And Venice.ai/RSBN can help you right there with 20% off code RSBN. You can find that in the App Store or on Google Play as well. As we continue to break down the news of the day and what's happened recently in the Trump administration and beyond, with cut number 6, a very happy birthday to Space Force. 6 years young now, December 20th of 2019. President Trump wishing them a happy birthday over the course of the weekend, and the 6th branch of the United States military that he introduced. And President Trump, someone who is focused on putting bases on the moon and being prepared for, God forbid, another space race or even space battles, stuff that we've seen that was once science fiction, now very, very real and in our immediate future. As President Trump recently visited on Friday, we were there for that, the Rocky Mount, North Carolina rally, the last one of the year, as he wraps up his year, as Secretary Rubio wrapping up the year as well on Friday with a press conference. So much happening within this administration. 9 meetings in the cabinet total. Per this 11 months back in office, there were only 9 total over the course of the 4 years of AutoPen. So what a difference it has been for the United States. With cut number 7, a North Carolina recap. President Trump stating on Truth Social that he's just leaving North Carolina, which was Friday night, where the crowd was amazing. They will hopefully be voting for Michael Whatley to be the next senator. His opponent, former Governor Roy Cooper, is a radical left lunatic who let the people of North Carolina down, especially in time of need. Heading to Florida with lots of meetings scheduled. So that's where the president is right now. Tremendous announcement today in the White House on the most favored nation drug pricing. This was Friday. There has never been anything like it in the medical world. Prices are now dropping at levels never seen before. This alone should win the midterms for Republicans. No Democrat could have come close to doing it, and prices will be dropping by 300, 400, 500, 600, even 800%. And on the plane, I just got to watch the Jake Paul fight, and he did really well, especially as a display of great courage against a very talented and large Anthony Joshua. Fantastic entertainment, but kudos to Jake for his stamina and, frankly, ability against a much bigger man. So President Trump going toe-to-toe in the prime time with his friend Jake Paul, and then also with that Alabama-Oklahoma game from the other night. So we watched that as well on Friday. Congratulations to all as we are getting ready for Christmas season. And if you are preparing, watch out for the storms that might be out west. President Trump, with cut number 8, has just spoke with Governor Greg Gianforte the other day of the great state of Montana, informing him that he will be approving an emergency declaration for Montana for severe storms they experienced this past month. Lots going on out there, as he says, I love Montana. President Trump working overtime to protect what matters most here in the country. And the biggest controversy, perhaps, of the year, arguably, is the $9 billion with cut number 9 stolen from the state of Minnesota. President Trump also taking to Truth Social regarding that by illegal Somalian criminals. Yes, stolen from the state of Minnesota by illegal Somalian criminals. They must pay a big price now. President Trump signing that directly, very upset about that situation. Also on Friday, in case you missed it, through the busyness of the season as we prepare for Christmas, with cut number 10, American strikes on ISIS terrorists in the aftermath of losing those great Iowa State Guardsmen, National Guardsmen, because of ISIS's vicious killing of brave American patriots in Syria, whose beautiful souls I welcomed home to American soil earlier this week in a very dignified ceremony. I am hereby announcing that the United States is inflicting very serious retaliation, just as I promised, on the murderous terrorists responsible. We are striking very strongly against ISIS strongholds in Syria, a place soaked in blood, which has many problems, but one that has a bright future if ISIS can be eradicated. The government of Syria, led by a man who is working very hard to bring greatness back to Syria and is fully in support. All terrorists who are evil enough to attack Americans are hereby warned. You will be hit harder than you have ever been hit before if you in any way attack or threaten the United States of America, signed there by President Trump. And we watched that the other night as that dignified transfer did occur, and we will replay that video for you as well, because it's something that is very heartfelt this time of year. And as I mentioned, an upcoming Christmas special of The Voice of Reason, some of us this time of year have that natural joy. Others are a little bit more pessimistic, and sometimes that's just how we're built as people. But at the same time, we recognize here so much has happened over the course of the news this year where people have lost their lives in an untimely or even violent manner. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of you, especially those viewers who have lost one at this time of year, because it is difficult to have that empty seat at the kitchen table to celebrate the togetherness that we're about to experience with family and friends, and perhaps some of you already underway in your celebrations as we have focused on celebrating Hanukkah right here in this beautiful country of ours as well. And for that dignified transfer ceremony video, in case you missed it, we do have cut number 19. Mr. Producer, if we can run that now. Thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN as we remember those who have laid down their lives for us here at home and given that last full measure of devotion. Truly, there is no greater love than laying down your lives for a friend. And this online pharmacy focus on that, family and friends, as we get into the togetherness, the sacred time of year that is known as the Christmas holiday. With 10% off your must-have medications this holiday season, use code RSBN10. That's RSBN10, 10% off now. Tamiflu, antibiotics, ivermectin, and much, much more. From hydrochloroquine to NAD plus and methylene blue, 300 plus essential medications that could be right there for you in your medicine cabinet. Smart to stock up on these things. This Tamiflu can actually go off the shelves before January and February when the flu really kicks up. In addition to that, a U.S. licensed doctor reviews your order and gets you these life-saving medications, off-label generic, that are often not prescribed at your pharmacy down the road. All there for you with 10% off now. RSBN 10, RSBN 10. No red tape, no bureaucracy, no insurance, no hassle. Just life-saving medication for you and your family at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Also, thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. Code RSBN, easy to remember, with the most recent Republican gubernatorial candidate, Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Save up to 80% this holiday season, 80. That's amazing savings on 2,000 plus items, including the MyPillow 1.0, 2.0, the My Slippers, My Coffee, one of my favorites out there from free and fair trade coffee beans from around the world, and those Mediterranean Giza Dream Sheets, everything made here and manufactured in the great state of Minnesota. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network at mypillow.com/RSBN. Also, if you can, as part of your Christmas giving, please feel free to support us here at the network. It's RSBN. You could text that to 801-801 or go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. We also have an address for check and money order, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for supporting us here on the right side of history as we give you unbridled access to your 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief, the 50th Vice President, the 119th Congress, and a midterm in 2026 that is second to none and very historical, already shaping up to be quite the battle, as we look forward to covering it as your go-to live desk and rally network right here on the right side of history. Thank you for supporting us. We'll take a quick commercial break for some more sponsors, but first you can get America First updates and exclusive offers right there, rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. There you can like, share, and subscribe our network, because so many times people say, I had no idea you existed. Well, if you're watching, please tell a friend or two, and there you can get all those updates right there on your phone when we go live to the great writers and op-ed columnists here at the network, diving into the deep issues affecting you and yours inside and outside of the Beltway. Again, all America First updates and exclusive offers right here at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. It's a gorgeous day in Washington, D.C., the federal city. It's a gorgeous day here, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama. Stick with us here as we count down to Christmas.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We are awaiting President Trump to make an announcement with Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Phelan at 4:30. So stick with us from roughly 1 hour from now, coming live to you from Mar-a-Lago at the Southern White House in Palm Beach, Florida. In case you missed it, Turning Point USA having their America Fest out in Phoenix, Arizona, near their headquarters, which is an emotional and somber weekend. We streamed that through a Rumble right here at the network. In case you missed it, amazing speeches, amazing analysis, incredible dialogue and discussion, as Erica Kirk, the CEO of the organization, stating that sometimes it's like being around the Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner table when family has frank discussion. And some of those debates turned roughly heated. Some were more robust discussions. And we'd like to hear what you say about it. What say you? Feedback at rsbn.tv. As we had some very impassioned speeches from Ben Shapiro to Mr. Steve Bannon, and also Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, amongst many others, on a whole host of topics affecting the American journey and story. So again, we'd love to hear from you directly. Feedback at rsbn.tv. Also at this event, you had Nicki Minaj as a special guest who really brought the house down prior to the Vice President of the United States, in my opinion, giving the best speech he has ever given, giving a speech that can be compared to citizenship in a republic presented by Teddy Roosevelt. Also, the immortal Time for Choosing, Rendezvous with a Destiny speech given by Ronald Reagan at the 1964 Republican National Convention that ultimately nominated Barry Goldwater and made Ronald Reagan a household name in the world of politics outside of Hollywood. But this speech really laying the groundwork for 2028 potentially, as Erica Kirk and Turning Point Action giving their complete and total endorsement to J.D. Vance if he so chooses to pursue the presidency of the United States. And for what it's worth, and especially after this speech, it moved me to tears. It moved me to looking deeper into myself. Again, how can I be more like my friend and former boss, Charlie Kirk? What do I need to do in the next year to be better? And so much of that is focused on that Christian worldview, not only opening up that Bible, reserving that time for prayer. That is the cornerstone to whatever we do in public and private life. And J.D. Vance's speech diving heavily and deeply and in an inspirational way into that, revealing those moments leading up to and post that terrible assassination on September 10th, and how he was reflecting on losing a friend this year, as so many of us have shared in that with the untimely and terrible assassination of Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA. So in case you missed it, this extraordinary speech by the Vice President of the United States to close out America Fest just yesterday.
Let How's it going, Phoenix? It's so good to be here with you all on this amazing day to close out an amazing AmFest 2025. What an amazing crowd all of you are, and I have to admit, today solved one of the great insecurities that I had. Because as I've watched Nicki Minaj come out and declare her support for the truth, for courage, and for wisdom, I've had this little nagging voice in the back of my head wondering whether she thinks I look like the J.D. Vance meme. And it turns out, and I confirmed when she walked down the steps, Nicki Minaj actually knows what I really look like. And that is the best tribute that I could possibly imagine. I have to start off with a note of gratitude. Erica, I cannot thank you enough for your strength, your grace, and your kind words of support for this administration and for me personally. You lead an incredible movement at Turning Point, and I will fight alongside you and President Trump and every patriot in this room to defend the country that we so dearly love. And when I say that I'm going to fight alongside of you, I mean all of you, each and every one. President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests. He says, "Make America great again," because every American is invited. We don't care if you're white or black, rich or poor, young or old, rural or urban, controversial or a little bit boring, or somewhere in between. People of every faith come to our banner because they know that the America First movement will make their lives better, and they also know that the Democrats don't care about anything other than maybe transing their kids. So if you love America, if you want all of us to be richer, stronger, safer, and prouder, you have a home on this team. I didn't bring a list of conservatives to denounce or to deplatform, and I don't really care if some people out there, I'm sure we'll have the fake news media, denounce me after this speech. But let me just say, the best way to honor Charlie is that none of us here should be doing something after Charlie's death that he himself refused to do in life. He invited all of us here. Charlie invited all of us here for a reason, because he believed that each of us, all of us, had something worth saying, and he trusted all of you to make your own judgment. And we have far more important work to do than canceling each other. We have got to build, and President Donald Trump is a builder. We're building a better country right now, and you have a rightful place in the success of your nation and the success of this movement. And we build by adding, by growing, not by tearing down. Charlie Kirk was a great builder too. He understood that any family can have its disagreements, its tough conversations. We can learn and improve and treat one another better. We can love each other despite the disagreement. But winning demands teamwork. And I am honored to be on Turning Point's team. I'm honored to be on your team, and I will stay that way. There's still so much important work to do, my friends. We're barely a year into this administration, not even a year into the administration. But I'm so proud of the accomplishments of the president and the entire administration. In just a year, we ended Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's border crisis. December marks 7 months straight of zero releases at the southern border. More than 2.5 million illegal immigrants have left the United States, the first time in over 50 years that we have had negative net migration, and it's just the start. When you restore sanity at the border, it shows up everywhere else. Rent prices are dropping 4 months in a row, and more native-born Americans are working than ever before. Kamala Harris opened the border and destroyed the economy. The Trump administration gave you net negative migration and much more job creation. Real wages are finally growing. Inflation is half of what it was under Democrats. Gas prices are their lowest in years. And we have finally made it clear that in the United States, we believe in hard work and merit. Unlike the left, we stand against treating anybody, and I love what Nikki said about this. We don't treat anybody different because of their race or their sex. So we have relegated DEI to the dustbin of history, which is exactly where it belongs. In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. And if you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying for college, because we judge people based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control. We don't persecute you for being male, for being straight, for being gay, for being anything. The only thing that we demand is that you be a great American patriot, and if you're that, you are very much on our team. Just consider the contrast. Kamala Harris used the government to censor you. We're using, in the Trump administration, the government to protect your free speech, whether it's on college campuses or in the digital marketplace of ideas. Today, our military is welcoming patriots instead of firing them for refusing to accept an unlawful vaccine mandate. And to honor Charlie, but also to honor all of you, we're working to end the scourge of left-wing violence in the United States of America. We're going after the far-left crime networks, but we're also going after the monsters that fund them. We don't just want to go after the Antifa member who threw a brick at an ICE agent. We want to know who bought the brick, and we're going to prosecute them too. We're making America healthy again with our great HHS Secretary, Bobby Kennedy. We're bringing drug prices down and purging our food supply of the poison that had built up over a generation. But my friends, there is so much more to be done. And the people saying we need to be doing more, we need to be doing it faster, trust me, I hear you. Greatness awaits every single one of you in the America First movement we are building together, but we need your help to get there. Do you want more prosecutions? Great. So do we. Donald Trump and I have a list of better judges and prosecutors to enact swifter justice. So join us in the fight against the stupid Senate rules to stand in their way. Do you want faster deportations? So go to ice.gov/join, because we're building an army of patriots and we need good people who care about the country to help us secure the border and do it even faster. Do you want rents to keep dropping and wages to keep rising as they have over the last few months? Then mobilize with us. Don't hand power back to the people who tanked the economy in the first place. Join the America First movement, and you will always have a place on our great team. Next month will be the official one-year anniversary of the Trump administration, and I am damn proud of our record so far. Now, the Democrats are already talking about 2028, and it looks like they're going to nominate a California liberal who's presided over rolling blackouts, open borders, and unchecked violent gangs. They're just trying to settle on whether it's going to be Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris. And in the meantime, what are the Democrats offering you in the meantime? I got to say, ladies and gentlemen, they are not sending their best. Omar Fateh was Ilhan Omar's candidate for mayor of Mogadishu. Minneapolis. Little Freudian slip there. The candidate for Senate in Maine for the Democrats calls me a Nazi, which is rich coming from a guy who literally has a Nazi tattoo on his chest. And Jasmine Crockett. Oh, Jasmine Crockett. The record speaks for itself. She wants to be a senator, though her street girl persona is about as real as her nails. But ask yourself, what do all of these people have in common? And the unfortunate answer is they are puppets. They don't actually matter. They are cogs in a machine that wants to make you poorer, that wants to make you less powerful, and wants to make you less safe in the country your ancestors built. And while President Trump and I are doing everything we can to break that machine, the left is still there, my friends, and they are still very powerful. Don't delude yourselves. It's the activist groups who want to poison your kids with hormone replacement therapy and toxins in your water supply. It's the corporate boardrooms pushing diversity quotas while whining about the fact that Donald Trump won't let them ship American jobs overseas anymore, and boo-hoo to that. It's the rogue district judges who issued nationwide injunctions every time the president lifts a finger. It's the Soros DAs who cheered on as their cities burned. What unites them? They win when our country loses. They get rich when you get poorer. They hire the illegals that they bring in to take your jobs. They drink fine wine in the countries they ship your jobs to. They censor you because they'd rather destroy the Constitution than risk losing an argument. They bring in millions of voters because they know they can't win the argument with the people who are already here. And you know what else unites them? We are going to kick their ass next November and every year after that. the American dream is the idea that we're all, every single one of us, on the same team. We're all part of the same American family. If you want to destroy that, do what Democrats have done, not just for the last 5 years, but for the last 30 or 40. Make one race the enemy of another. Make one gender the enemy of the other. Make Americans suspect and despise each other instead of loving their shared country. When I think about some of the most impassioned debates happening in our country, the nature of citizenship, of what it means to be an American, it all speaks to an obvious truth. Americans are hungry for identity. We're hungry for belonging. We're hungry for a sense of our place in the world. And it's no surprise why. For many years, our fellow Americans have been dealing with a globalized economy that homogenized cultures and hollowed out our towns. Academics and activists pushing race and gender politics down everyone's throat 24/7. Big tech overlords using their internet platforms to censor stories that challenge the dominant far-left narrative in our country. More than any time I can recount, people are talking about American identity and figuring out what it is that unites us. But I want to say something here. The only thing that is truly served as an anchor of the United States of America is that we have been, and by the grace of God, we always will be, a Christian nation. Now, I want to be explicit because, of course, the fake news media will twist everything that I say. I'm not saying... Do you feel about them the same way I do? I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to be an American. I'm saying something simpler and truer. Christianity is America's creed. The shared moral language from the Revolution to the Civil War and beyond. Across that history, our country's major debates have always centered on how we could best as a people please God. That creed, think about it. That creed motivated our understanding of natural law and rights, our sense of duty to one's neighbor, the conviction that the strong must protect the weak, and the belief in individual conscience. Even our famously American idea of religious liberty is a Christian concept. Because we're all creatures of God, we must respect each individual's pathway to that God. But over the last 50 years, there has been a singular focus, a war that has been waged on Christians and Christianity in the United States of America. And let me say, of all the wars that Donald Trump has ended, that is the one we're proudest of. For decades, the left has labored to push Christianity out of national life. They've kicked it out of the schools, out of the workplace, out of the fundamental parts of the public square. Freedom of religion transformed into freedom from religion. And in a public square devoid of God, we got a vacuum. And the ideas that filled that void preyed on the very worst of human nature rather than uplifting it. They told us not that we were children of God, but children of this or that identity group. They replaced God's beautiful design for the family that men and women could rely on and turn to one another, with the idea that men could turn into women so long as they brought the right bunch of pills from Big Pharma. They had all the religious fervor of a zealous convert without any of the grace or forgiveness of a true Christian. Scripture tells us, "By your fruits ye shall know them." And we might ask, what are the fruits of these people and their principles? And the answer is a man named Tyler Robinson who killed my friend. Think about it. He is everything that the far left want from our young men. He rejected the conservatism and the spirituality, the values of a small town family. He moved into a small apartment. He became addicted to porn. He became addicted to hate. And he ended up sleeping with somebody who doesn't know whether they're a man or a woman. That is the nightmare scenario, but that is the scenario that the left has actively advertised they want for American families. And the young men in the audience in particular. That is exactly why we have to fight them. Because the fruits of true Christianity are men like Charlie Kirk. The fruits of true Christianity are good husbands, patient fathers, builders of great things, and slayers of dragons. And yes, men who are willing to die for a principle if that's what God asks them to do. Because so many of us recognize that it is better to die a patriot than live a coward. I'm going to tell you something I haven't talked about publicly before, but in the days after Charlie's death, I struggled a great deal. I'm sure many of you did too. I remember watching every video of the assassination, looking for clues, trying to understand what happened. I'd try to hide my friend and that terrible bullet hitting him, but I would try to look around. I stayed up all night for many nights in a row, researching every conspiracy theory, going down every rabbit hole. When my lovely wife, Usha, told me to come to bed, I told her I owed it to Charlie to try to uncover every stone. And so that's what I tried to do. I remember I was consumed by this fear that Charlie's death wouldn't just deprive a family of their husband or of a good father, but that it would deny our movement of a great unifier of people and a great doer of great deeds. It's the only time I can remember my wife ever telling me that she was really worried about me. She told me it many times. But what saved me was not lying to myself, but accepting the reality of the fight that we're in. Charlie's death was an immense loss, an irreplaceable loss. We got kicked in the teeth, my friends, and there's no sugarcoating it or pretending that it didn't happen. We need to accept that. And what saved me was realizing that the story of the Christian faith, like the story of these United States of America, is one of immense loss followed by even bigger victory. It's a story. It's a story of very dark nights followed by very bright dawns. What saved me was remembering the inherent goodness of God and that His grace overflows when we least expect it. Not long ago, I spent time at a Christian men's ministry just a couple of weeks ago. And here's what they do. They take men who struggle with addiction or homelessness and they help them get back on their feet. They feed them, they clothe them, they give them shelter and financial advice. They live out the very best part of Christ's commission. Now afterwards, I had lunch with 4 of these men. It was a couple of white guys, a Hispanic guy, and a black man. They had all struggled in their unique ways. Some had lost contact with their family, some of them for a very long time. Others were desperate to rebuild relationships with their kids so that they could see them on It wasn't racial commonality or grievance. It wasn't some philosophical jargon. It wasn't a DEI prep course, and it wasn't a welfare check. It was the fact that a carpenter died 2,000 years ago and changed the world in the process. If you go to almost any food pantry in this country, you will find Christians feeding the poor. If you go to addicts whose families won't even speak to them, like my mom was at a certain point of her life, it's often the Christian ministries that stay with them at their very lowest moments. You'll find Christians sitting patiently beside hospice beds and in recovery rooms and in all the places of the world where people have given up on other people. And this is the moral truth we strive to center in our work in the Trump administration and in this great movement of ours. A true Christian politics, it cannot just be about the protection of the unborn or the promotion of the family, as important as those things absolutely are. It must be at the heart of our full understanding of government. Why do we penalize corporations that ship American jobs overseas? Because we believe in the inherent dignity of human work and every person who works a good job in this country. Why have we worked without the help of Congress to restrict H-1B visas, for example? Because we believe it is wrong for companies to bypass American labor just to go for cheaper options in the third world. We help older Americans in retirement, including by ending taxes on Social Security, because we believe in honoring your father and mother rather than shipping all of their money off to Ukraine. We believe in taking care of the poor, which is why we have Medicaid, so that the least among us can afford their prescriptions or to take their kids to see a doctor. And it's why we are outraged at the injustice of Tim Walz allowing Somalian immigrants to defraud that program to the tune of billions of dollars. It ought to go to Americans, because that's who it's there for. Now, I want to close, my friends, but I have heard you. I know that some of you are impatient at the pace of progress, and my response to that is good. Be impatient. Use that desire for justice for your country as fuel to get involved in this movement in a bigger and better and more powerful way. I know some of you are discouraged by the infighting over any number of issues. Don't be discouraged. Wouldn't you rather lead a movement of free thinkers who sometimes disagree than a bunch of drones who take their orders from George Soros? And I know many of you miss our dear friend Charlie Kirk. So do I. I miss his optimism. I miss his energy. I miss the phone calls where we'd strategize about how to get this or that GOP congressman to get off their ass and do something. But most of all, I miss Charlie's wisdom. I miss his reminder that politics is not a dress rehearsal or a game. We are making decisions that will save our country and give the American people a shot at their dreams again. If you miss Charlie Kirk, do you promise to fight what he died for? Do you promise to take the country back from the people who took his life? Do you promise to help defeat the radicals who cheered his death? Do you promise to honor his memory by having faith in the God he loved? My friends, commit to these things, and I promise you victory. I promise you closed borders and safe communities. I promise you good jobs and a dignified life. Only God can promise you salvation in heaven, but together we can fulfill the promise of the greatest nation in the history of the earth. Merry Christmas, my friends. Let's keep fighting.
An extraordinary speech by the 50th Vice President of the United States to close out Turning Point USA's America Fest out in Phoenix, Arizona yesterday. Themes of unity, themes of having the ability to free think with Christian nationalism, the idea that our Christian ethics led to the foundations of this amazing nation nearly 250 years ago. A call to action peacefully and patriotically to serve your community, especially the men, and especially to go against the ideology that led to someone killing the late, great Charlie Kirk in such a barbaric way. As we watch that situation play out in a courtroom now, Vice President J.D. Vance giving a personal touch that he so eloquently does, and an inspirational story unlike anyone else. And I truly see it as a speech very much like Citizenship in the Republic and that of Ronald Reagan's Time for Choosing. Well done, Mr. Vice President. Thank you for those extraordinary and inspiring words leading up to the Christmas holiday. As we await roughly 20 minutes from now a scheduled event with the President, making an announcement with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, Secretary Phelan on hand as well. Thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's code RSBN10. Use 10% off now for your must-haves this holiday season. As All Family Pharmacy, the key of this pharmacy, family, and that togetherness, that sacred, cherished time of the year as we celebrate Hanukkah leading into the Christmas ceremony is just hours away. Tamiflu, antibiotics, ivermectin, much, much more. 300 plus medications, including emergency medical kits, made available for you, the American people, with no insurance, no red tape, no hassle, just a pharmaceutical note. These U.S. licensed doctors will review your order and send it right to your door within a matter of days. RSBN 10 is the code for 10% off. Scan the QR code now. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN as well, with questions like Times Person of the Year. Will AI take that over? Ohio State, the Buckeyes, the Indiana Hoosiers, and the Georgia Bulldogs, amongst other teams, competing for the big dance on January 19th. The stage is set with some of those playoff games having take place this past weekend. But those Buckeyes falling short to the Hoosiers in their first outright Big Ten championship in football on the gridiron since 1945. So we look forward to that competition. The NCAA Division I AA, which is known as the FCS Series, now in its championship, all set between Montana and the Illinois State Redbirds. We'll see that on January 5th. My Chicago Bears, 11-4, at the top of the NFC North. How will that all play off for Super Bowl 60? Kalshi.com/RSBN. Answer those questions of sports, music, culture, politics, and much, much more. Might as well trade and bet on the American story. Also, thank you to covepure.com/RSBN for a holiday sale unlike any other. $250 off this machine that looks very much like a coffee maker you might have at home on the kitchen counter, for a reverse osmosis system leading with Clearwave technology, removing 99.9% of the impurities out of the water. If you rent, this is a great option. You don't need those pipes, those plumbers, and all the mess that will take place, and then pay those fines when you move out of your apartment. You can see with the temperature change there. If you drink tea, a great tool to use to get that water nice and hot fast instead of waiting for it on the stove, and then you have to steep it and go through all the process and the steps. You don't have to worry about that with this wonderful covepure.com/RSBN. In addition to making it cold water, lukewarm water, hot water almost immediately, it's good to make sure poison is not in your water. We know now that fluoride to hormonal disrupting blockers like birth control, agricultural runoff, pesticides get into the tap water And with that lead crisis that took place back during Flint, Michigan, remember that? That can all lead to brain damage, to liver failure, kidney issues, gastrointestinal problems. You don't need that. Drink pure, live pure with covepure.com/RSBN. Utah and Florida addressing this very matter with their legislatures and their governors, Spencer Cox and Ron DeSantis, respectively, looking at all of the different options to make America's water systems safe and pure. But covepure.com/RSBN leading the way on that with their Clearwave technology, $250 off right now. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we cover the latest from the Trump White House and the news that is out there breaking as we get to this Christmas holiday, just days away. And as you notice from the vice president's speech right prior to him going on stage, a surprise, Erica Kirk showing up with her friend Nicki Minaj to talk on a number of different cultural issues and that freedom of religion, the freedom to think, the freedom to speak your mind. And when asked about how she handles those critics out there, Nicki Minaj said, I don't listen. I don't care. This is who I am. I'm moving forward. And how great is it to have people like Jason and Brittany Aldean and Nicki Minaj focused on thinking about their future, their posterity, being unafraid, not backing down, not simply worrying about selling songs or albums or what it might be out there in the music world, but rather, how am I going to leave an impact on the social construct, on culture as a whole? And that's what a Turning Point USA event does better really than anyone else, as they had the tent there in memoriam of Charlie Kirk, where he spent his last moments. And that image really got me over the weekend as I was tuning in for this amazing coverage and the robust discussion and people leading a movement that is truly a big tent, as the vice president pointed out as we saw that replay moments ago. But with cut number 14, Mr. Producer, we can play some of those comments back from America Fest with Nicki Minaj as the opener, precursor for the vice president yesterday.
Well, I have the utmost respect and admiration for our president. He has, I don't know if he even knows this, but he's given so many people hope that there's a chance to beat the bad guys and to win and to do it with your head held high and your integrity intact. This administration is full of people with heart and soul. And they make me proud of them. Our vice president, he makes me, well, I love both of them, but they're both powerful men, smart, strong, all of that, but both of them have a very uncanny ability to be someone that you relate to. I can relate to them. When I hear them speak, I know that they're one of us. Like, I know that they're not. Don't you guys agree? They haven't lost touch of the world. You know, they're still connected to the world and what's happening in the world, with the younger people and older people, with the richer people and not so rich people. They have the ability to still connect and be real and make us feel proud to be American.
Nicki's comments remind me of a colleague who once told me, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And I think she's hitting just on that, the relatability that you have in the president and the vice president, as they make countless encounters with people every single day, busy schedules, yet will take the time to listen and really get to know people. And I think it's from their outsiders' experience, being businessmen, being in the working world, and seeking to understand people at any level, as they've been highly successful compared to our friends on the other side of the aisle who have solely use government. I mean, if you look at the difference between the tickets, it was really something last year to see Harris and Waltz and where they come from in the public sector, and as the vice president mentioned in his speech, controlled by the likes of Soros. It's better to be leading free thinkers and have free thinkers in a robust discussion, even when there is disagreement, rather than being zombies, as you can see from the far left progressive movement in this country. And speaking to Nicki Minaj's comments of the success in admiring these leaders, let's just break down those numbers for the year with cut number 11, Mr. Producer. President Trump taking to Truth Social to talk about those correct job numbers that is not portrayed accurately most of the time, sadly, from fake news outlets. The only reason our unemployment ticked up to 4.5% is because we are reducing the government workforce by numbers that have never been seen before. 100% of our new jobs are in the private sector. I could reduce unemployment to 2% overnight by just hiring people into the federal government, even though those jobs are not necessary. I wish the fake news would report the 4.5% correctly. What I am doing is the only way to make America great again. And President Trump doing just that to make sure that the money goes where it's needed, with 5.7 million going to the state of Kansas, with cut number 12. President Trump issuing those federal funds to assist the great state of Kansas. I have just informed Senator Roger Marshall that I have approved $5.7 million for the wonderful state of Kansas in order to recover from severe storms, tornadoes, and flooding. They are tough and smart patriots who love our country and will rebuild stronger than ever before. And the same kind of relief happened over for our Indian communities in the La Jolla Band of the Sueño Indians with cut number 13. To help them recover from the damage to their community from the tropical storm Hillary, if you remember that. They are great people. And that was something that the failures of FEMA happening from the Bush administration all the way through the auto pen, especially with the terrible storms that went through Asheville, North Carolina during the campaign. We remember all of that. As most favored nation drug pricing, a huge concern for this administration. Dr. Oz with cut number 15, taking that to the American people in this video address, and something that can see some relief when it comes to life-saving medications manufactured right here in America come the new year. Oh, we'll play cut number 15.
Most favored nation drug pricing is about being fair to the American consumer. We pay, on average, 3 times more for the exact same drugs put in the same bottles in the same factories that same product sells for in Europe. The president said, no mas, no more. It's got to all be fairly priced across the globe, and we've been pushing for most favored nation pricing, doing the unthinkable with bold action to ask pharmaceutical companies to agree to drop their prices in the United States. Today, massive news, 9 more companies are getting into the program. That means now we have 14 out of the 17 big companies are in, and I'm proud that the president was able to push without any hesitation to make sure that we've gotten all these companies on board. It's just bold leadership, it has bold vision, and it achieves bold goals.
And this president focused on revamping the entire economy to making prosperity happen right here at home in 11 months back in office, and that being a crucial piece to it. But with number 16, President Trump making the way along with his cabinet, as Nicki Minaj said, there are people with heart. They actually care. And we've seen that on a regular basis, on a daily basis, right here at the network as we cover what's the most historic modern administration in American history. With cut number 16, a historic boom happening right here at home and making that available to the American people.
Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. I am bringing those high prices down very fast. After years of record-setting falling incomes, our policies are boosting take-home pay at a historic pace. Wages are rising much faster than inflation. Very importantly, there are more people working today than at any time in American history, and 100% of all jobs have been in the private sector rather than government. I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Tonight, I am also proud to announce that 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special warrior dividend. On day one, I declared a national energy emergency. Gasoline is now under $2.50 a gallon in much of the country. In some states, it, by the way, just hit $1.99 a gallon. And within the next 12 months, we will have opened 1,600 new electrical generating plants. The yearly cost of a typical new mortgage increased by $15,000 under Democrat rule. In 11 months, we've already gotten that annual cost down by $3,000. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen.
Wages up, gas prices down, inflation coming down as well at 2.7%. This is an amazing rapid pace that we have not quite seen in past administrations. Thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for all those life-saving medications to take on the road with you or have in your medicine cabinet. Tamiflu, especially as we approach the January and February uptick in flu. RSBN 10 is the code for 10% off right now, life-saving medications, and it's no insurance, no red tape, no bureaucracy, simply a pharmaceutical note for you and your loved ones, and it all gets reviewed by a licensed U.S. doctor and sent right to your door for this generic life-saving medication that is off-label because of the right to try, because of most favored nation status, making it simpler for you. This cherished season, this time of togetherness, All Family Pharmacy, the key to their pharmacy is family, as we care about that here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. So visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN or 10% off for RSBN 10. Scan that QR code there, RSBN 10, your must-haves: Tamiflu, antibiotics, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, 300+ medicines, including emergency medical kits, and much, much, much more right there for you. And you can take these on the road with you. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as we're very grateful for all of our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'd also like to thank our next sponsor this evening, and it is Kalshi.com/RSBN for Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia. Will it be Alabama? Who will win the January 19th competition and become the championship winners of the world? Again, the Buckeyes, the Hoosiers, the Bulldogs, the Crimson Tide, among others, having amazing seasons this year. Will AI become Times Person of the Year? Will Jensen Wang hold out that position? How about my Chicago Bears? Will they win it all in Super Bowl 60? They're 11-4. That was fun to watch over the weekend on Saturday night as we get ready for so many celebrations as the new year comes and Christmas is right around the corner. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade and bet on anything from sports to music, politics, culture, and much, much more. It's the American story as it unfolds. Might as well trade and bet on it. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. As we also like to thank AngelPace.com. our great friends. Christian owned. They hire veterans out of Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America. Their original Miracle Cream, I use it every day. Vitamin B Miracle Cream. That does wonders. The orange option infused with vitamin C, all non-GMO, no chemicals. Their natural facial spray as well, a great way to paint the town red and get you ready for your Christmas celebrations. A last-minute stocking stuffer as well. AngelPaste.com. Experience their miracle today and their countless products right there online. Great patriots, wonderful people at Angel Paste. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. As we break down what's happening in the Trump White House, the biggest accomplishments, and ultimately what will happen and take place in the next year. We await President Trump to make an announcement with Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Phelan right at the bottom of the hour here. We'll take a quick commercial break for sponsors. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We will take you to Palm Beach, Florida. President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, the Southern White House, to await his presentation and announcement with the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief, along with Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Phelan. As cut number 17, Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announcing new regulations and rules at Health and Human Services, major steps to protecting America's children, including new rules to bar hospitals from performing sex-rejecting procedures on minors, FDA warning letters to companies marketing breast binders to children, a Section 504 update clarifying gender dysphoria isn't considered a disability, and much, much more. And it's amazing to think that really this child abuse was taking place across the country. I think these doctors really need to be held accountable for performing life-altering surgeries, especially those suffering from mental illness or the gender dysphoria, which is just bizarre in and of itself. Number 18 as well, in case you missed it, and President Trump speaking on this earlier, announcing more than 1,450,000 military service members receiving a special warrior dividend before Christmas Day. In honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we are sending every soldier $1,776, and the checks are already on their way. So that last week, and likely in time right now in the mailbox right before Christmas. Cut 21 as well, President Trump highlighting a number of graphs in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. We saw that just the other night, the Biden real wage losses versus the Trump real wage gains for the typical worker, and how that is continuing to climb under this administration, now 11 months into the new administration. Also with gasoline, and cut 22 with that graph showing how the costs are going down under the Trump administration with the national gas average and how it's skyrocketed right in between that 2022-2023 mark under Biden. And this is also in the 45th administration and the 47th, how that is scaling off and going down with its peak low during COVID. So that changed it slightly there, but was already low on average. So a good indicator of how people can save some money in the economy. Also, the reverse migration numbers, rather extraordinary, with cut number 23 and that graph being highlighted in the Rocky Mount, North Carolina issue as well. And you have native-born employment levels skyrocketing during this administration versus the last. So a lot of positives happening over the course of this less than 1 year in office. And as Vice President J.D. Vance told Turning Point USA's America Fest, let's be optimistic, be impatient about certain things and certain major items that need to get done. At the same time, really be proud of what has been accomplished this year in record time with those who are continually ridiculed by the far left, who have no partners in the Democrat Party virtually when you look to the ones on Capitol Hill. But as we saw from interviewing people right there in North Carolina, it was Republicans, it was Democrats, it was independents, it was people on the right side of history using common sense, and so many attracted to the MAGA movement because of what has been accomplished not only in this term, but in the first term of President Trump back in 2017 to 2021. So as we analyze and break all of that down, we await President Trump to make an announcement with Secretary Hegseth and also Secretary Phelan momentarily, as the White House releasing private sector job growth fueling President Trump's economy, and something that was quite highlighted along with all of the successes of this term so far in Rocky Mount, North Carolina on Friday night. The strong jobs report shows how President Trump is fixing the damage caused by Joe Biden and creating a strong America First economy in record time. Since President Trump took office, 100% of the job growth has come into the private sector and among native-born Americans, exactly where it should be. Workers' wages are rising, prices are falling, and trillions of dollars of investments are pouring into our country. And the American economy is primed to make a boom in 2026, according to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, the absolute superstar, doing a wonderful job on a daily basis for this administration. Now, the jobs report just from last week showing the strength of President Trump's economy in the private sector, where it should be. Here's what you need to know. Since September, the private sector gaining 121,000 jobs, while the federal government has shed 168,000 jobs. As the Trump administration shrinks the runaway federal bureaucracy, federal employment is now at the lowest level in over a decade, down 271,000 jobs since President Trump took office. Since August, the private sector has added 225,000 jobs. So that's shattering any economic expectation over the course of the last few months. Under President Trump, 100% of the job growth has come in the private sector and among native-born Americans, not illegal aliens. Since taking office, President Trump adding 687,000 private sector jobs between January and 2025 in November, 2.7 million native-born Americans gaining employment, while 972,000 foreign-born workers lost employment. 2.75 million native-born Americans joined the labor force during that period of time, while 1.1 million foreign-born workers left the labor force. 52,000 construction jobs have been added over the past 3 months as we build in America with American workers leading the way, and Americans' real wage is on track to rise by 4.2% in the first full year of the Trump administration, far outpacing inflation and a complete reversal from the Biden era. Now, labor force participation rising between September and November as more Americans come back to the workforce in the Trump economy. The slight increase in the unemployment rate is entirely because more Americans are jumping back into the job market as the booming Trump economy brings them off of the sidelines. Get off the sidelines and into the game. That is the mission of this government. As President Trump also announcing that the White House Travel Office is preparing for a trip to Davos, Switzerland. That will take place on January 21st and 22nd. So after your Christmas celebrations getting settled in, and sometimes the calmness that can come as a result of January and the new year, the president to address those globalists all the way over in Davos, Switzerland. So we'll watch that very closely as the real-time decisions being made on a daily basis here. This president focused on bringing up those wages right here at home, and heavily focused on that in the speech on Friday in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, as well as poking fun at certain individuals and sadly the SNAP fraud that took place in Minnesota because of the Somali issue there and the illegal immigration that came there as a result of Governor Mark Dayton and former President Barack Hussein Obama. And then turning the blind eye to it and actually blaming Caucasians and white people in an extraordinary show of racism. Governor Tim Walz doing just that when he and Attorney General Keith Ellison, the great state of Minnesota, turning their backs on that snafu that was the SNAP practices and the fraud that took place. But we know Ilhan Omar, someone who allegedly married her brother in order for green card status and for so-called legal status. We're so generous of a people allowing her to serve in Congress when she has openly mocked this country. And that's why Vice President J.D. Vance jokingly said she endorsed who would be the future mayor of Minneapolis. But we know Jacob Frey winning re-election in that. Even he on the far left is not radical enough for the Islamist Ilhan Omar and AOC plus 3, these communists that are in the Congress seeking to not only usurp the authority of the President of the United States, but also undermining the will of the people and this great country of ours. So we'll watch that very closely as common sense and promises made, promises kept, definitely coming back to the great United States of America. We'll take a quick commercial break as we await President Trump to make an announcement with Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Phelan from the Southern White House all the way down in Palm Beach, Florida.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interviewed the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. And in case you missed it, President Trump in North Carolina last Friday for the last rally of the year as the sun begins to set on the federal city there with cut number 1, Mr. Producer, as we await President Trump to make an announcement with Secretaries Hegseth and Phelan. Here's a quick recap of a barn burner of an event there in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Well, I'm thrilled to be back in this incredible state with so many proud, hardworking American patriots, which is what you are. And let me begin by wishing each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas. We're here tonight to celebrate 11 incredible months. It's been the most successful first year of any president in the history of our country. Since my inauguration, we've created more than 53,000 North Carolina jobs, including 8,000 North Carolina construction jobs. More than 150,000 North Carolina residents have been lifted off of food stamps. We had men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, crime at record levels, the worst trade deals ever made. And our country was laughed at from all over the world, but they're not laughing anymore. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world because we finally have a president who puts America first.
President Trump focused not only on the midterms, as the Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania, and the Rocky Mount, North Carolina rallies, really focusing on domestic policy, affordability, and ultimately what the $18 trillion of tariffs bringing back to the United States of America. President Trump did not forget about Greenland. You might be asking, well, that happened in the first 100 days. What's the updates with that? Well, with cut number 2, President Trump appointing Governor Jeff Landry of Louisiana to be a special envoy up in Greenland and continue those discussions with the Kingdom of Denmark and what that might take for further purchasing power and influence as a spot that would be rather strategic in the defense of the United States and North America as a whole. Again, Seward's Folly was the nickname for acquiring Alaska. At the time, 2 cents per acre during the Lincoln administration. William Seward being scolded by that from media at the time in the 19th century, but that has really turned out to be, ever since a state becoming 1959, the 49th state in the Union, really a crucial defense tool for all of the Pacific, not only helping the Pacific Fleet, but also our Air Force, Navy, and really our entire military being stationed up there at J-Bear outside of Anchorage, the municipality. And I got to see that firsthand covering news up there. Greenland would have that same exact effect to deter any threats that may come in through the North Atlantic. So President Trump appointing Governor Landry to watch over all of that. Also, there could be no different. It's night and day, black and white versus the Republican agenda in Washington and the Democrat agenda in Washington, D.C. with cut number 3. President Trump laying that out very clearly on the successes this year versus the failures of the Democrats. And President Trump highlighting that the GOP Congress delivering historic tax relief, securing the borders, safer communities, and the Democrats obstructing with the government shutdown, yet another impeachment hoax and health care for illegal aliens. That's the reason why they led to the largest government shutdown, was their temper tantrum over just that very issue. And even other headlines that are not so positive to President Trump outlining the success with cut number 4, what's happened with the U.S. trade deficit going down over the last few weeks, in some cases since all of 2020. With Bloomberg stating that the U.S. trade deficit unexpectedly shrinks to the smallest since 2020. Wall Street Journal, the U.S. trade deficit falls to a 5-year low. Also, the New York Times, Trump's tariffs shrank the U.S. trade deficit in September. Incredible success there. Also, the lower trade deficit than we expected, according to CNBC. So tariffs are working. President Trump highlighting that in the speech the other night, That's one of my favorite words. He can't say that anymore, though. He got in trouble with the First Lady. Of course, he was making jest about it. But now tariffs is his fifth favorite word, no longer his first favorite word. Also on Friday, we got news that Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is suspending her campaign, dropping her bid to become the next governor of New York, and also saying she will not run for re-election in Congress. This was somewhat of a surprise, but going back to focus on being a mom, the most important job, as I can understand that, my friends and family members, moms and dads first, and it's a joy to watch all of that, as that was Charlie Kirk's mission. That was so many of our missions in the MAGA movement, to expand and build and create nothing more fulfilling in life. But that then turned President Trump to Mr. Bruce Blakeman, endorsing him in the New York governor's race. The very highly respected Nassau County executive, Bruce Blakeman, running to be the next governor of New York. President Trump highlighting that with cut number 5 on True Social, and that Bruce is MAGA all the way and has been with me from the very beginning. As Nassau County executive, he is working tirelessly with the brave heroes of ICE, Border Patrol, and law enforcement to keep our border secure, stop migrant crime, safeguard our community, ensure law and order. As your next governor, Bruce will continue to fight hard to grow the economy, cut taxes and regulations, promises made in the United States of America. Champion American energy dominance, strengthen our military and veterans, advance election integrity, and protect our always under siege Second Amendment. Bruce Blakeman is a fantastic guy and will win the big November election without hesitation, has my complete and total endorsement for governor of the once great Empire State of New York. It can be great again. Bruce Blakeman will never let you down. So it's an exciting race to watch as this all develops. And President Trump, what he needs, and that's what we ask people in line in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, the focus on why go out and fight in the midterms peacefully and patriotically, even without President Trump at the top of the ballot, with his name not being there, but his policies on the ballot. He needs those local and state partners in order to enact great reforms and legislation for the United States of America. And we have that recap with cut number 7 as well in North Carolina, that President Trump stating, just leaving on Friday night from the Tar Heel State, where the crowd was amazing. They will hopefully be voting for Michael Whatley to be the next United States Senator. His opponent, former Governor Roy Cooper, is a radical left lunatic who let the people of North Carolina down, especially in time of when they needed that. All those storms that took place over the course of the 2024 campaign. Heading to Florida with lots of meetings scheduled. That's where he is right now. That's where we'll take you with this announcement with Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Phelan moments away. Tremendous announcements today in the White House on the most favored nation drug pricing. There has never been anything like it in the medical world. Prices are now dropping at levels never seen before. This alone should allow and win the midterms for Republicans. No Democrat could have come close to doing it. Prices will be dropping by 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, even 800%. On the plane, I just got to watch the Jake Paul fight, and he did really well, especially as a display of great courage against a very talented and large Anthony Joshua. Fantastic entertainment, but kudos to Jake for his stamina and, frankly, ability against a much bigger man. President Trump, he knows he enjoys fighting, especially with UFC. And we'll have the UFC fight right there at the White House on July 4th of 2026, our 250th anniversary. A great birthday party in store. Now, in case you missed it as well, Montana has been hit by some storms recently, especially their snowstorms, with cut number 8, President Trump pledging for some financial aid from the federal government in regards to protecting the great state of Montana. Also doing that for, as it mentions there, I just spoke with Governor Greg Gianforte, the great state of Montana, informing him that I will be approving of an emergency declaration for Montana for the severe storms they experienced this past month. I love Montana, and who doesn't? It's gorgeous out there in those mountain states, and especially a winter wonderland this time of year. It's a much bit different for Governor Tim Walz with cut number 9, $9 billion stolen in the great state of Minnesota. $9 billion was stolen from the state of Minnesota by illegal Somalian criminals. They must pay a big price now. That's the president writing that directly on Truth Social as he took a strike while we were out talking to people outside of the Rocky Mount Event Center in North Carolina. President Trump authorizing via his generals the strike on ISIS in Syria. With cut number 10, this was retribution for what happened to our Iowa State Guardsmen and also the translator who lost their lives because of ISIS's vicious killing of brave American patriots in Syria, whose beautiful souls I welcomed home to American soil earlier this week. In a very dignified ceremony, I am hereby announcing that the United States is inflicting very serious retaliation, just as I promised, on the murderous terrorists responsible, and we are striking very strongly against ISIS strongholds in Syria, a place soaked in blood, which has many problems, but one that has a bright future if ISIS can be eradicated. The government of Syria, led by a man who is working very hard to bring greatness back to Syria, and is fully in support. All terrorists who are evil enough to attack Americans are hereby warned. You will be hit harder than you have ever been hit before if you in any way attack or threaten the United States of America. And signed, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. We also have video in case you missed it with that transfer, number 19, the dignified transfer ceremony video for your viewing pleasure from last week. And the two guardsmen, Sergeant Edgar Brian Torres Tovar, only 25 of Des Moines, Iowa, Sergeant William Nathaniel Howard, 29 of Marshalltown, Iowa, losing their lives in that brutal and heinous attack. Our thoughts and prayers with their family members, especially this time of year as we enter into the holiday season. President Trump also focused on a number of different issues facing the United States of America, one of them being the most favored nation status on drug pricing with cut number 15. That video by Dr. Oz, in case you missed it, focus on producing these pharmaceuticals not only here at home, but by bringing down those very expensive prices. And we can replay that now for you in case you missed it.
Most favored nation drug pricing is about being fair to the American consumer. We pay, on average, 3 times more for the exact same drugs put in the same bottles in the same factories that same product sells for in Europe. President said, no mas, no more. It's got to all be fairly priced across the globe, and we've been pushing for most favored nation pricing, doing the unthinkable with bold action to ask pharmaceutical companies to agree to drop their prices in the United States. Today, massive news, 9 more companies are getting into the program. That means now we have 14 out of the 17 big companies are in, and I'm proud that the president was able to push without any hesitation to make sure that we've gotten all these companies on board. It's just bold leadership, it has bold vision, and it achieves bold goals.
We have a live feed up there of the Southern White House. Mar-a-Lago will take you right there for President Trump to make an announcement with Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Phelan. In the meantime, in case you missed it, bringing higher prices down, bringing down gas prices, 100% of new jobs to American-born workers and in the private sector, and also wages rising faster than inflation. President Trump highlighting that in a quick video in case you missed it. With cut number 16, we're experiencing a historic boom, and that's all on the heels of protecting the homeland from narco terrorists.
Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. I am bringing those high prices down very fast. After years of record-setting falling incomes, our policies are boosting take-home pay at a historic pace. Wages are rising much faster than inflation. Very importantly, there are more people working today than at any time in American history, and 100% of all jobs have been in the private sector rather than government. I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history. That includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Tonight, I am also proud to announce that 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special warrior dividend. On day one, I declared a national energy emergency. Gasoline is now under $2.50 a gallon in much of the country. In some states, it, by the way, just hit $1.99 a gallon. And within the next 12 months, we will have opened 1,600 new electrical generating plants. The yearly cost of a typical new mortgage increased by $15,000 under Democrat rule. In 11 months, we've already gotten that annual cost down by $3,000. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen.
Private sector job growth going up exponentially in the Trump economy, according to the White House. And White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stating the strong jobs report shows how President Trump is fixing the damage caused by Joe Biden and creating a strong America First economy in record time. Since President Trump took office, 100% of the job growth has come in the private sector and among native-born Americans, exactly where it should be. Now, workers' wages are rising, prices falling, trillions of dollars in investments are pouring into the country, and the American economy is primed to boom in 2026, with last week's jobs report showing the strengthening of President Trump's economy in the private sector where it belongs. Now, here's what you need to know. Since September, this focus has been gained 121,000 private sector jobs, while the federal government has shed 168,000 jobs over the course of a runaway federal bureaucracy that was way in over its head. Even at the Kennedy Center, now the Trump Kennedy Center, they were funding the full-time employees there on back pay and within a debt funnel that the government would create more thin of that paper money that we see just going up and being evaporated because they were addicted to spending, which is a terrible way to fund anyone full-time, especially in a public sector job like that. Now, as the American government shrinks the bureaucracy, something amazing and hard to do, because Ronald Reagan always spoke on the closest thing to eternal life here on earth is that of a federal program. But President Trump clearly reversing that with his business prowess and business background. That federal employment is now at the lowest level it has been in over a decade, down 271,000 jobs since President Trump took office, many of them having replicated one another. Remember the emails. Please send to the Executive Office of the President 5 things that you've accomplished this week, not even in a day, but this week at work. Many of them could not have answered that and ended up taking a package to leave. As we will see, perhaps a Kalshi.com/RSBN question, which door will the president come out of? Will it be off of the ornate bar there on the right-hand side? Will it be that left-hand door that's open? I guess we'll see momentarily. It's the seal of the President of the United States, the American flag, and his signature flag up and ready to go for this announcement with Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Phelan on military matters and perhaps some of the strikes you have seen in the Caribbean of the narco-terrorists alleged to have been trafficking those drugs towards ports and towards the border here at home. We know that border is shut down and strong and safe and secure more than it has been at any point in modern American history. Now, under President Trump, 100% of the job growth has come in private sector jobs and not from the government, including native-born Americans really succeeding in this economy, not illegal aliens. Since taking office, President Trump adding 687,000 private sector jobs. Between January and November of this year alone, 2.7 million native-born Americans gaining employment, while 972,000 foreign-born workers lost employment. 2.7 million native-born Americans joining the labor force in that period of time, while 1.1 million foreign-born workers left the labor force. Now, 52,000 construction jobs have been added over the course of the last 3 months as we build in America. Building is happening with the American workers leading the way. Americans' real wages are on track to rise by 4.2% in the first full year of the Trump administration, far outpacing inflation and complete reversal from the Biden era that we saw just recently. Labor force participation rising between September and November as more Americans come back to the workforce in the Trump economy. Now, the slight increase in the unemployment rate is entirely because more Americans are jumping back into the job market as the booming Trump economy brings them off of the sidelines. A Democrat shutdown is estimated to have cost the private sector as many as 62,000 new jobs in October. Now, there are challenges that do lie ahead. There's no question about that. As we look to some of the headlines hitting different rank and file groups around the country, that AI is actually responsible for some of those firings taking place, whether public or private, where it could replace up to 50,000 new jobs in the very near future. We're also talking about West Bank settlements and Israel's cabinet approving the building of 19 new Jewish settlements in the West Bank. Finance Minister Smotrich saying that just yesterday on Sunday. Would you like to make your dog your dependent and file your taxes that way? Well, it could be possible if an attorney filing a lawsuit in the Eastern District of New York aiming to get the IRS to allow pets to be claimed as dependents. Very interesting story to follow there. As a Russian general was killed on Monday when a car bomb exploded in Moscow, marking the third military official killed since 2024 in the Russian-Ukrainian standoff, a terrible war which will, God willing, come to an end in 2026 as productive and constructive, to quote, speaking more moments and endeavors between United States Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, saying that talks with Ukrainian leaders and European officials were productive and constructive in Miami. Also some Russian officials there as well. As we're planning to travel for the holidays, millions and millions of Americans doing that by plane, train, and automobile. Get ready for the weather potentially, as rain and snow could drastically impact your trip to grandma's house, as forecasters are saying, but especially out west along that Pacific Golden Coast will be better temperatures and actually warmer temperatures, a record that will be set here, I believe, getting to the low to mid 70s come Christmas Day right here in the Yellowhammer state of Alabama. So we'll watch all of that as a deportation bonus is being made available by DHS. tripling its voluntary departure stipend to $3,000 for migrants who self-deport by the year's end, warning of arrest for those who end up staying. Also, Paramount amending its bid for purchasing the Warner Brothers Discovery account. Paramount Skydance amends its bid to purchase Warner Brothers Discovery, adding a personal guarantee of funds from billionaire Larry Ellison. So we'll watch all of that very closely as a question happening right next door in the Peach State. Can you shoot a porch pirate? In other words, a Georgia man allegedly shot 2 teens he claimed were attempting to steal his packages. Some say it was justified, but apparently this individual is going to be prosecuted over that. What say you? Feedback at rsbn.tv. Feedback at rsbn.tv. Do we have a right to protect our own property, or does that change in certain jurisdictions or certain states? As there's no Powerball winner as of yet, no ticket matching, all 6 numbers drawn. We'll watch that very closely. Another $1.6 billion happening in Monday's draw. So that's a big award for the Christmas season as we look at the very ornate, the gorgeous Mar-a-Lago, which was once envisioned to be a presidential retreat, and that gaining that status thanks to President Trump purchasing it back in 1985. One of the most gorgeous homes in all of America. That Spanish architecture as you go into that main foyer, and all of the gold and the tile to oriental rugs on the ground there. President Trump has quite the taste. And it's a little bit warmer down there in Florida, so wonderful this time of year. As a Christmas order coming across the desk of the president and him putting pen to paper, of course, not the auto pen, but his, ordering that December 24th and December 26th federal holidays to celebrate Christmas in America. Thank you as well to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 10% off your must-haves this season. Use code RSBN10, RSBN10, Tamiflu, antibiotics, ivermectin, much, 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 much more. 300-plus essential medications, including NAD+, methylene blue, and the antivirals that could get you through the holidays. Tamiflu going fast like hotcakes, so get yours before January and February when the flu definitely goes up in its surges throughout the season. And All Family Pharmacy is in the name. It's all about family. It's all about the cherished, sacred time here in the Hanukkah and Christmas seasons, and they care about you getting off-label, generic, life-saving medications that you could stock in your medicine cabinet or take with you on the road. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN is your go-to for a pharmaceutical note, and no insurance required. And we will go to Mar-a-Lago now for the President of the United States.
Mar-a-Lago for this exciting announcement of the new Golden Fleet. We're calling it the Golden Fleet that we're building for the United States Navy. As you know, we're desperately in need of ships. Our ships some of them have gotten old and tired and obsolete, and we're going to go the exact opposite direction. We're delighted to be joined by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who's doing a fantastic job, and Secretary of the Navy John Phelan. Marco Rubio is here, who gave a great few words toward the end of last week. He spoke for a couple of hours on what a good job we're doing, which is true. As Commander-in-Chief, it's my great honor to announce that I have approved a plan for the Navy to begin the construction of 2 brand new, very large, largest we've ever built, battleships. You know, you used to build the Iowa, the Missouri, the Wisconsin, the Alabama, many others. We had big battleships. These are bigger, but they will have 100 times the, there'll be 100 times the force, the power, and there's never been anything like these ships. These have been under design consideration for a long time, and it started with me in my first term, because I said, why aren't we doing battleships like we used to? And These are the best in the world. They'll be the fastest, the biggest, and by far 100 times more powerful than any battleship ever built. So if you look at the Iowa, the Missouri, Wisconsin, Alabama, and others, but they were similar in size, some a little bit bigger than the others, but if you take the biggest one, it's 100 times more powerful. They're longer by a little bit, but and they're bigger ships, but they hold much more. They use the word lethality. Battleships are the largest, sturdiest, and most heavily armed vessel built specifically for naval combat. While America has built many new warships over the years, they've tended to be smaller, much smaller, and not conducive to where we are and where we're going, and peace through strength. But including, we've been building aircraft carriers. We're going to be upping that also. We're going to be going to a superior aircraft. We have the Ford class. We're going to be upping that to a different class of aircraft carrier. And we haven't built a battleship since 1994. These cutting-edge vessels will be some of the most lethal surface warfare ships. It will be actually the most ever built other than our submarines. We have submarines which will have, in many ways, even more lethality, and we have many of them under construction. Each one of these will be the largest battleship in the history of our country, the largest battleship. 100 times more powerful than the previous Iowa class, it's called. Those are the big ones that you'd see on a show. Victory at Sea. I don't know if anyone's seen Victory at Sea, but it was a classic. They'll help maintain American military supremacy, revive the American shipbuilding industry, and inspire fear in America's enemies all over the world. We want respect. We're going to have it. We already have it. More respected now than we ever were. A year and a half ago, they laughed at us. Now they respect us again at levels that they've never respected us. We envision that these two ships, we're talking about 10, but we're going to start with 2, and we're going to quickly morph into 10. And ultimately, we think it's going to be anywhere from 20 to 25 of these. But we're starting with the first 2 immediately, and we're going to then be very quickly involved with, I think, we're going to do another 8. And then we're going to ultimately and pretty quickly have a total of about 20 to 25. We'll make that determination. We envision that these ships will be the first of a whole new class of battleships to be produced in the years to come. From Theodore Roosevelt, the Great White Fleet, you remember that, the Great White Fleet, to the legendary USS Missouri, whose massive guns helped win World War II. America's battleships have always been unmistakable symbols of national power. We stopped making them for whatever reason, I don't know. And I want to congratulate John Phelan, who is your secretary of the Navy. He came to me the first day we met. He talked about battleships, and I said, "You're absolutely on the right track." He said, "Why are we doing other things? We have missiles, which are much more expensive." By the way, these battleships have tremendous numbers of missiles, but they also have guns. And in many ways, guns can do the trick just as well as missiles at a tiny fraction of the cost. Once completed, these new 30 to 40,000 ton plus vessels will be the flagships of the American naval fleet, and there has never been anything built like them. And I just want to be very clear that we're building them here. We're working with others, but we're building them here. We have great Navy yards. We'll be negotiating with some of the companies that are running those yards, taking over the yards. We used to build a ship a day during World War II. Now we don't do ships very much anymore. We do military ships, we do submarines. By the way, we're 15 to 20 years advanced in our submarines over anybody else. That was one of the things that I did in my first term. We make the best submarines by far in the world. We're at least 15 years advanced ahead of anybody else in submarine development. Most powerful, that's right, the most powerful weapon anywhere in the world. undetectable. So the battleships are going to be armed just in terms of guns and missiles at the highest level. They'll also have hypersonic weapons, many hypersonic weapons, state-of-the-art electric rail guns, and even the high-powered lasers that you've been starting to read about. We have lasers where you aim the laser at a target and it just wipes it out. We're going to have, they'll be the most sophisticated lasers in the world, and the most sophisticated laser in the world will be on the battleships that we're building. They'll also carry the nuclear arms, sea-launched cruise missiles currently under development, which will be instituted pretty quickly, but they're under development and they've proven to be extremely lethal. The U.S. Navy will lead the design of these ships along with me, because I'm a very aesthetic person, alongside our partners in American industry, and we're going to have Pete Hegseth and Marco and a lot of very talented people involved, but a lot of it's already been done. We've been doing this for months. The construction will create thousands of American jobs. We're going to have the jobs be created. I mean, already we have factories being built unrelated to this, although AI will be a big factor when it comes to these ships. They'll be very AI controlled. Today's announcement is yet another step in our mission to make the United States Navy stronger than ever before. Again, when you talk about 100 times the power of these massive ships that we had years ago, it's pretty amazing. And next week I'm going to meet with the defense prime contractors. I'm going to meet with them here, Florida. And we're going to be talking about production schedules because they're too slow. We have many countries, allies, that are wanting to buy. We make the greatest equipment in the world by far. Nobody's even close, but they don't produce them fast enough. So we're going to be meeting with them to talk about the production schedules. We're going to have strong production schedules. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is to build new plants. Even with the F-35, we have many people who want the F-35 fighter jet, and it takes too long to deliver them to allies or to ourselves. It takes too long. The only way they're going to be able to deliver them is if they build new plants. They don't want to build new plants because that's expensive. So we're going to be discussing production schedules. We're going to be discussing CapEx spending. We'll be discussing the pay to executives where they're making $45 and $50 million a year and not being able to build quickly. They're going to make that kind of money. They have to build quickly. Again, we make the best equipment in the world, but they don't make them fast enough. And we're going to be also discussing dividends. We want the dividends to go into the creation of production facilities. So we'll be talking about all CapEx, dividends, and the pay. We're also going to be talking about buybacks. They spend so much money on buybacks. They want to buy back their stock. I don't want them to buy back their stock. I want them to put the money in plant and equipment so they can build these planes fast, rapidly, like immediately. I mean, I have sold more planes than any president by far, times probably 20. So every time I go someplace, I sell 100 planes. That includes commercial planes, Boeings, etc., but it also includes fighter jets. And I'm always having to say 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, helicopters, Apache helicopters, many years. India bought them. They want to get them. They don't want to wait a long time. So we don't want to have executives making $50 million a year, issuing big dividends to everybody, and also doing buybacks. And then they say, well, we don't have the money to build a plant. They got to build plants. Plants to make F-35s, plants to make helicopters, plants to make the F-47 new jet. And that's it. And that's what I'm going to be talking to them about. They're going to start spending money on building airplanes and ships and the things that we need, not in 10 years and 15 years. We need them now. And we're strong about it. Last week, the Navy announced a brand new class of frigate, and they're going to be working with the South Korean company. Hanwha, a good company, recently agreed to invest $5 billion in Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. We're opening up the Philadelphia Shipyard. Once a great yard. Now it was a long time ago decommissioned, but now it's reopening. Working with the Navy and working with private companies. The record-setting defense bill I signed last week authorized $26 billion to build new ships, including destroyers and various others. We already have a lot of submarines, as you know, under construction. We're building a lot of submarines. I tell you, to be exact, we have right now 15 submarines under construction or ready to start. And we have, again, the greatest submarine in the world with our technology, like they talk about chips. Well, I would say submarines are a bigger deal than chips. We're at least 15 years ahead of any other competitor. China, Russia, nobody can come close. We're also building right now 3 large aircraft carriers in addition to the ones we have. And we have, actually, interestingly, we have a lot of submarines. How many submarines do we have now altogether, approximately? Huh?
Today.
What?
Over 30.
We have over 30. But these are the super duper subs, and there's nothing like them. So we're going to be doing from 12 to 15 brand new submarines. We have a couple of other things going on. We'll be building other elements of Navy. We'll be fixing up headquarters. We'll be fixing up places for our great sailors to live. And we're going to be working very hard with companies, but we're also going to be penalizing companies that aren't doing a good job. For instance, when they built the Ford, Gerald Ford, the cost overruns were ridiculous. That was done in Norfolk, Virginia. We're going to be talking about that with that company. The cost overruns were out of control. In World War II, the United States built upwards of 4 ships per day. Can you believe it? 4 ships a day, on average. And now there weren't all big warships, but there were ships, freighters, tankers. And it's a tragedy that we allowed this incredible capability just go astray. We don't do that much anymore. We do build our warships, but that's about it. But that's a lot. We're going to restore America as a major shipbuilding power. We're going to ensure the USA is the most powerful fleet anywhere in the world, and long into the future, with battleships helping lead the way, and the submarines. And again, nobody competes with us on submarines. So I just want to thank everybody, and I'd like to ask Secretary Hegseth to say a few words, followed by the Secretary, but if you would, Secretary of the Navy. But Pete's doing a fantastic job. By the way, we have drugs are down 96.2% coming into the United States. 92.6 by sea. And soon we'll be starting the same program on land. The land is much easier. But every one of those boats that we knocked out saved 25,000 lives. So we saved 25,000 lives every time we knock out one of those boats with the drugs pouring in. And you just have to see it. I mean, people say, oh, gee, do you think it was really drugs? Well, just take a look. Bags all over the place. That's not fishing equipment. There's no fishing rods on those boats. They move fast. When you see a boat with 4 engines or 5 engines on, going 40, 50 miles an hour, well, they get hit. We save 25,000 lives every single time we knock out a boat. And it's over 96% stopped by sea. We're trying to figure out who the other 4% are, frankly. And we're going to have the same success, but even quicker, because it's much easier on land. If they want to come by land, they're going to end up having a big problem. They're going to get blown to pieces, because we don't want our people poisoned. 300,000 people died, probably last year 300,000. A lot of people say it was 200. Somebody said last night, it was only 175,000 people. That's like 3 stadiums, big football stadiums filled up with people died. But I think the real number is 300,000. We're not going to have that anymore. So we're doing a great job, and we enjoy doing it. Our border is secure. Our country is strong. Trillions of dollars is coming into our country from other countries and companies. They're building factories and plants, including auto plants, all over the United States of America. Without tariffs, they wouldn't be doing anything, although they were very happy with the November 5th election. But it's only because they want to avoid paying tariffs that they're all coming in. And again, the biggest number was $3 trillion in history. That was China many years ago. Now it's $18 trillion, and that's just in 10 months. We think we could hit $20 trillion. That's investment in the United States, including plant and equipment. So thank you very much, and I'll ask Pete to say a few words, and then John. And if you have any questions, we'll take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, Mr. President, you're exactly right. There are no fishing poles, no fishermen, and no fishing boats. Just drug dealers and narco-terrorists. And with every strike, we're saving American lives. No other president was willing to do real deterrence. That's exactly what's happening. It's an honor to be here, Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, Secretary Rubio, to talk about what peace through strength really looks like. You can talk about it, or you can invest in it, and you can build it. And that's exactly what President Trump is doing. At the Department of War, we're restoring the warrior ethos. In fact, the President mentioned the NDAA. We put into law merit-based. We put into law getting rid of DEI and political correctness. That's now part of how our military operates. And you've seen it in record recruiting in the spirit of the Department of War. We're rebuilding the military. President Trump did it once. He's doing again with historic investments today in shipbuilding. And we're reestablishing deterrence, whether that's at the border, whether it's through Golden Dome, what happened with Midnight Hammer and what Iran found out, those drug boats, and of course the Houthis opening up the shipping lanes. American strength is back on the world stage. And the announcement of the Golden Fleet, anchored by new battleships, the biggest and most lethal ever, accomplishes all three of those things and marks a generational commitment to American sea power. Across the entire department, we are developing new operational concepts, deploying cutting-edge technologies, and making major investments, including in our Navy. This is happening in all domains, including space, as the President has talked about before anyone else. So it's the highest of domains and the lowest of domains under sea, and especially today in sea power, that always has to be decisive, has been in the history of America, and will continue to be under the leadership of President Trump. We will make sure that anything that flows from our country and with our allies flows freely and uncontested. New and better ships will provide that deterrent today and for generations to come. This new class, these new investments, will be the types of things that for decades, for centuries, the American people will look back and thank President Trump for having the vision and the willingness to invest right now in capabilities we need today, tomorrow, and long into the future. So, Mr. President, thank you for this investment, and I'll hand it over now to the Navy Secretary.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Rubio, thank you for being here on a very consequential day. From my very first conversation with President Trump about serving as the Secretary of the Navy, he's talked about the great Iowa-class battleship and why America doesn't build ships anymore with that kind of offensive firepower that takes the fight to the enemy. During my time in the job, I've talked extensively with our combatant commanders, like Admiral Paparo and Admiral Cooper, and our CNO, Admiral Cottle. And what I've learned is that not only is the President's idea a good one, it's something that Navy desperately needs and now has a formal requirement for. The future Trump-class battleship, the USS Defiant, will be the largest, deadliest, and most versatile and best-looking warship anywhere on the world's oceans. I want to thank the President for his vision to make this game-changing capability for the United States Navy. The Iowa was designed to go on the attack with the biggest guns, and that's exactly what will define the Trump-class battleships. Offensive firepower from the biggest guns of our era. This ship isn't just to swat the arrows. It is going to reach out and kill the archers. And for the first time in generations, we'll have a new leg in America's nuclear deterrence, because the Trump-class battleship will carry the nuclear-armed, sea-launched cruise missile. Striking dominance isn't all that the Trump-class battleship brings to the fight at sea. It has the size and capacity to serve as a flagship for our fleet commanders so that they can command and control naval forces far out to sea. As shown in the series, and the President mentioned it, Victory at Sea, Admirals Bull Halsey and Raymond Spruance commanded the war in the Pacific from their battleship flagships during World War II. Now this new battleship will command everything from warships to drones and everything in between. We're going to make battle groups great again. And this is just one piece of the President's Golden Fleet that we're going to build with the investments he talked about. A new frigate, the right frigate, the one our warfighters have told us they need. More amphibious power for our Marines with new capabilities like the medium landing ship. As part of the Navy's high-low mix, we're moving out aggressively on unmanned vessels with funding from the President's One Big Beautiful Bill to bring options to the fight and pull new, non-traditional defense partners into the American shipbuilding ecosystem. And we're making a generational investment in support ships. Logistics wins wars, and that kind of shipbuilding is the spark that will ignite the industrial base and help power the commercial shipbuilding that the President has called for. Under your leadership, Mr. President, we will have more tonnage and firepower under construction than ever before in our history. Building the President's Golden Fleet means jobs across the United States now. There'll be work for shipyards everywhere, from Philadelphia to San Diego, from Maine to Mississippi, from the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast. And for manufacturers that will build components for this battleship in every state. The President has been clear. We must bring back our American maritime industrial might. And he has told me many times that as Secretary of the Navy, it is my job to equip our sailors to win the fight at sea with the finest ships in our history. To conclude, the USS Defiant battleship will inspire awe and reverence for the American flag whenever it pulls into a foreign port. It will be a source of pride for every American when it brings home our brave sailors who will sail defiant, raise their fists, and say, "We are peace through strength." And our adversaries will know when the Trump-class USS Defiant appears on the horizon, American victory at sea is inevitable. Thank you, Mr. President. Now when a conflict arises, you are going to ask not one, but two questions. Where are the carriers and where are the battleships? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to mention that John Phelan is one of the most successful businessmen in the country, in our country. Been a tremendous success, and he wanted to do this, and for nothing, he's taken probably the largest salary cut in history, but he wanted to do it. He wants to rebuild our Navy, and you needed that kind of a brain to do it properly. So I just wanted to give you a little information on him, which is probably enough. But one of the most successful men in the country, and he's that because he understands it, and he understands finance in addition to what we're talking about. Somebody who's doing a fantastic job is Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. And Marco, maybe say a few words, and then we'll answer some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I don't have much to add. This is a phenomenal presentation. Thank you, Mr. President. This is American industrial power returning. This is the ability, once again, to rebuild, to have industry in the United States. This is generational in the change, not just in terms of applying American war power, increasing our ability to protect the seas. The U.S. Navy is the single biggest source of peace in the world of all of our forces because it gives us a global footprint. But it rebuilds American industrial capacity. The ability to make things again in our country has been critical to what the President's agenda has been all about, and this is a tangible reminder of it. And I know the country's grateful for it, and generations of Americans will be grateful for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Marco. By the way, I think I'd just like to point out that these ships are made of steel as opposed to aluminum. It's a big difference, as you know. Battleships, the great battleships, had 6- and 7-inch steel hulls, and these are going to be likewise made out of very powerful steel. Our steel industry is coming back very strongly, by the way. It's coming back at record numbers, and we're going to be using them for the steel, but as opposed to an aluminum side, which, in all fairness, is not the same. So, John, we're going with all steel, I understand. And it's going to be something that people are surprised, more expensive, but not even comparable in terms of the importance and the strength. Yeah, please.
What's your timetable for these first two ships, and do you see them as a counter to China?
We'll start almost immediately, and we'll probably talking about 2.5 years.
And in terms of the mission, do you see it as a counter to China?
It's a counter to everybody. It's not China.
We get along great with China. I have a great relationship with President Xi. And not China, it's just everybody. You don't know who comes along. But we just wanted peace through strength. Hopefully we never have to use them. But there will never be anything built like these. Think of it. Those battleships are incredible. These have 100 times the power. Think of that. I mean, and they were big and they were powerful. You know, I thought about taking some that are in dry dock and changing them. And then when I said that, you know, if we did, would be about, we could increase, if we doubled them, they'd be at like just a tiny fraction of what one of these was. This is the new technology, which is incredible. So we decided pretty early on not to do that. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, Julio Rosas with Most Peaceful Media. You just referenced the lower amount of illegal drugs that are coming by sea, and you just said that you're going to start that same program on land soon. Are you just referring to Venezuela, or are you referring to other countries in Latin America?
Anywhere drugs are pouring in, anywhere, not just Venezuela. Yes?
Speaking of Venezuela, oil. What are we going to do with the oil that we have?
Going to do with what?
The oil that has been seized. The United States seized 1.9 million barrels of oil on December 10th.
We're going to keep it.
Where's it? Are we going to sell it or put it in the strategic?
Maybe we'll sell it. Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we'll use it in the strategic reserves. We're keeping it. We're keeping the ships also. Yeah, please.
About Venezuela, sir, have you spoken to American oil companies that have had their assets seized about what a post-Maduro Venezuela would mean for them, of what coming back and restarting operations?
The big ones, yeah. I have. Yeah, please.
Why do you feel like this initiative was neglected for so many years, and does this come amidst the rising tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela?
We're talking about with Venezuela?
Yes.
Well, you had a different kind of a president before me. They didn't mind being ripped off. They didn't mind being robbed. They didn't mind drugs pouring into our country. They didn't mind the jails of Venezuela and Trinidad, Nicaragua being emptied into the U.S., where they take over Colorado and other places. I do mind. So you had a different kind of a president. I hope people are enjoying it because we've never been respected more than we are now. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their
By
full...
what?
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, you know, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they give you their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy, either friendly or not friendly. But they, you know, he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers, and Bill Clinton was a friend of his. But everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, and as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. Mar-a-Lago. This is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place in. I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida. And everybody would come here. He'd come here. We actually threw him out. But no, I don't like the pictures of Bill Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy. He can handle it. But you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein years ago, many years ago, and they're highly respected bankers and lawyers and others, and they'll end up, because of guys like Massey, who's a real lowlife, whose polls are down to about 9%, by the way, in the great state of Kentucky. If you look at Kentucky, Kentucky is such a great place, but I don't know, they've got a couple of people on there that are very strange in terms of leadership, but Massey's a loser, and he likes it, and he works with the Democrats. He's just being used by the Democrats, because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished. I believe they gave over 100,000 pages of documents, and there is tremendous backlash. It's an interesting question, because a lot of people are very angry that pictures are being released of other people that really had nothing to do with Epstein, but they're in a picture with him because he was in a party, and you ruin a reputation of somebody. So a lot of people are very angry that this continues. A lot of Republicans are angry because of the fact that it's just used to deflect against a tremendous success. Look, we have $18 trillion coming into our country. We have, I believe, we're going to have the most successful economy in history. We inherited a mess. Now prices are coming way down. Gasoline is less than $2 in some states. $1.99, $1.97, $1.95 a gallon. $1.95. Think of that. A gallon. Nobody ever thought they'd see that. They don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about Epstein. And the problem is a lot of Democrats are being caught up in the web, like Larry Summers. Larry Summers was the head of Harvard. He's now been forced to resign from every board he's on, and he was thrown off the Harvard board. Now he was at Epstein's Island a lot. I wasn't. I never went there, by the way. But fortunately, it's nice. But I never went there. But a lot of people did go there. But instead of talking about the battleships, or instead of talking about most favored nations drugs, we're bringing down drug prices like at a level that has never even been thought of, by thousands. Think of it, by 1,000%, by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400% in some cases. A drug that sells for $10 in London is costing $130 in New York. We're bringing it down to $20, and they're going to go up to 20. So they're going from 10 to 20, which is a doubling. It's a doubling. That's a lot, but it's a doubling. But we're going down to 20. So we're going down, if you can do your own math, but it's 2,000%, 3,000%. It's pretty amazing. And you know, the New York Times had a story about it, a small story, way in the back of the paper. It's the single biggest thing to happen with respect to drugs probably in 50 years. It's never been anything like this. In my first term, I was able to get drug prices down 0.25%. It's the first time in 28 years that they went down. 0.25%. I was so proud of myself. Now we're doing them 2,000%, 1,500%, 1,200%. That pill that sold for $130 will now be selling, as an example, for $20, because the rest of the world took advantage of us. Without tariffs, I could have never done it. I called up the heads of the countries. As an example, France, I spoke to a very good man, President Macron of France, and I said, Emmanuel, you have to raise your drug prices. He said, no, we will not do that. I said, you have to. He said, no, I don't want to do that. Look, you're asking me if we go to $10 to $20, you're going to come way down to 20. We don't want to do that. Now, in all fairness, no other president even tried. But if they did try, there was actually a fake story in stupid USA Today. I didn't even think they'd make it anymore. I haven't. But I saw a story where Biden was trying to do this. Biden never tried to do it. Biden didn't know he was alive. He never tried to do it. But they're taking it from $10 to $20. So he would say, and the other leader said the same thing. No, we won't do it. I said, no, you're going to do it 100%. They said, nope, we're not doing it. We're not going to double our price. Because, again, if you go from $10 to $20, they're doubling their price. We're coming now, though, from $130 to $20, because we're going to get the lowest drug prices in the world. Whatever the lowest price is called favored nations. We're going to have the lowest price. So I said, no, you're going to. No, I will not do this. Politically, it's unacceptable. I said, Emmanuel, you're going to do it 100%. Please accept it now. Be nice. You're going to do it 100%. No, I will not. I said, yes, you will. He said, why do you keep telling me I am when I'm not? Because if you don't do it, I'm going to put a 25% tariff on everything France sells into the United States of America. And that's approximately 20 times more than I'm asking for with respect to drug prices. He said, I see. I agree to do it. Every other country said the exact same thing. They all said, no, I will not do it. I said, all right, on Monday morning you'll have the 25% tariff, everything you sell. In the case of France, it was wine, champagne, cars, everything they sell. It's 25 to 30 times the price of what we're talking about, at 25%. Every single country agreed. And that was a big problem. The drug companies were difficult, but fine, because we have a certain control over the drug companies. We had no control over these foreign nations. So every single country has agreed to do this. So we will take that pill price down, as an example, talking about not just pills, we're talking about everything. We'll take it down from $130 a pill down to $20 a pill. And the rest of the world will take it from $10 a pill up to $20. It's the biggest thing ever to happen, and it's covered, barely covered in the New York Times, because it's a fake newspaper. Yeah.
Mr. President, on shipbuilding, how is the administration plan to ensure that there's sufficient workforce availability as you're producing these ships?
Could you speak up?
How does the administration plan to ensure there is sufficient workforce availability as you're producing these ships?
We're going to have we're going to have tremendous workforce availability. We're also going to have robots helping us. We're going to have a lot of robots helping us because we need it. And because we're going to town, we're building a lot between the AI and the auto plants. So we're going to need robots. We're going to have robots, but that's going to help us. We're going to have a tremendous workforce. And in order to operate you're always going to need people. You know, you can have robots, but you're going to have to get somebody to start those robots, and you're going to have to improve the robots. But we're going to have robotic factories plus manpower. So we're going to have enough. We're going to need the help of robots and other forms of, I guess you could say, employment. We're going to be employing a lot of artificial things, but the beauty is we're going to have more jobs than we've ever had. Just so you know, a number came out the other day. We have more jobs right now in the United States. More people are working right now in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. Think of that. Pretty amazing. So we'll have the help of, you know, mechanical help, if you want to call it that, but we'll have tremendous employment. They'll be paid a lot of money. They'll do better than they ever did. Okay?
Mr. President, some may have been expecting a different kind of announcement today, hearing your Secretary of War and Secretary of State here. You mentioned strikes on land in Venezuela more than 15 times, even now, just in your recent remarks. Why should Maduro take your threats seriously? And
he can do whatever he wants.
What's your end game?
Maduro?
What's your end game?
There's no answer. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, we have a massive armada formed, the biggest we've ever had, and by far the biggest we've ever had in South America. He can do whatever he wants. It's all right. Whatever he wants to do. If he wants to do something, if he plays tough, it'll be the last time he's ever able to play tough. But they sent their prisoners into us. They sent people from jails, prisons. They sent people from mental institutions and insane asylums into the United States. Just walked right in because Biden had an open border policy. What the Biden administration did to our country can never be forgotten. They took in millions and millions, 25 million people over the course of 4 years. Many of those people were murderers and drug dealers, prisoners, rough prisoners. 11,888 murderers. More than half of them killed more than one person. They came into our country. Now, I spoke to Christine Noem today. I spoke to Tom Homan today. He came down to see me. And we had a great meeting. They've done an amazing job. We're getting them out. We're getting them out very fast. But this should have never happened. But Venezuela was Venezuela took advantage of the open borders that Biden created more than any other country. Tren de Aragua, we had gangs all over. Look, I mean, you have a very weak governor in Colorado. Look what happened in Colorado where they would occupy apartment houses. And he didn't want to do anything about it because he was scared. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, please.
So in response to the United States taking sanctioned oil from Venezuela, Colombian President Gustavo Petro criticized the United States by saying, well, the Southwest is stolen land and that it should be returned to Latin America. I just wanted to know what your response to that is.
Well, he has to watch because, you know, he's got drug factories. They make cocaine in Colombia. And he's no friend of the United States. He's very bad guy. And he's got to watch his ass because he makes cocaine and they send it into the United States of America from Colombia. We love the Colombian people. I love the Colombian people. They're great people, energetic, smart, great. But their new leader is a troublemaker And he better watch it. He better close up those cocaine factories. They have at least 3 major cocaine factories. We know where they are. He better close them up fast, yeah. By the way, it's made and sold into the United States. Comes through Mexico.
Thank you, sir. You've named Governor Landry to be new special envoy to Greenland. Yeah. What do you see that role entailing? And is it still your intention that Greenland become part of the U.S.?
He viewed Louisiana, the Louisiana Purchase. He said, I'm governor of Louisiana. And he said, I didn't call him, he called me. He's very proactive. He's a great guy. He's a deal guy. He's a deal maker type guy. And we need it for national protection. We need Greenland for national protection. They have a very small population. And I don't know, they say Denmark, but Denmark has spent no money. They have no military protection. They say that Denmark was there 300 years ago or something with a boat. Well, we were there with boats too, I'm sure. So we'll have to work it all out. But he felt very strongly we need it for we need Greenland for national security. Not for minerals. We have so many sites for minerals and oil and everything. We have more oil than any other country in the world. We need Greenland for national security. And if you take a look at Greenland, you look up and down the coast, you have Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need it for national security. We have to have it. And he wanted to lead the charge. So we're making him, Marco, today, a special envoy to Greenland. Greenland's a big deal. Yeah.
Mr. President, on Ukraine, can you give an update on the talks that took place this past weekend, and could a trilateral discussion of sort be the next step for Ukrainian, U.S., and Russian delegations?
So the talks in Ukraine, Russia are going along. They lost, as you know, 27,000 soldiers last month, mostly soldiers, some people in Kiev, etc., but mostly soldiers. And the talks are going along. And I say that, there's tremendous hatred between these two leaders. Between President Putin, President Zelensky, tremendous hatred. And I hope we can get it done. We are talking. Talks are going okay. But, I've solved 8 wars. And Thailand is starting to shape up. They started with Cambodia. They started up again. But I think, Marco, we have that in pretty good shape to have that stopped. So we stopped 8 wars. And I thought this would be in the middle of the pack, but maybe easy, but in the middle of the pack. But there's a lot of hatred between those two people, and when there's hatred, there's, But we stopped one war 38 years, one war 35 years, one war was going on for 32 years. And we stopped, think of it, we stopped a potential nuclear war between Pakistan and India. And the head of Pakistan, highly respected general, he's a field marshal, and also the Prime Minister of Pakistan said President Trump saved 10 million lives, maybe more, by getting that war. 8 planes were shot down. That war was starting to rage. And he actually said the other day that President Trump saved 10 million lives, maybe more. So we solved all these wars. The only one I haven't solved yet is Russia, Ukraine.
Are you still pushing for the Christmas Day deadline with Russia and Ukraine? And have you spoken with Putin or Zelensky or plan to push the deal?
I'll do whatever I have to do. I'd like to see it stop. Look, we don't lose any money on that war anymore. Biden gave $350 billion, and who knows what happened to it. We now sell missiles, planes, all of the best military equipment. We sell it to NATO. We got NATO to go from 2% GDP to 5%. Nobody believed that to this day. Nobody's going to write that, but nobody believed it. And they take that money and they pay it to the United States for weapons. So we sell weapons to NATO. We sell full price. We sell weapons to NATO, and NATO takes those weapons and probably distributes them, but gives a lot of them to Ukraine. So we don't lose any money like we did with Biden. He was spending money like a fool. He was a fool. What he did to our country is so horrible. But he gave $350 billion between cash, gave a lot of cash, $350 between cash and weapons. You remember at the beginning of that whole thing, I gave them javelins. Javelins are the anti-tank busters. And President Obama at the time gave them sheets. I gave them javelins. They gave them sheets. But the bottom line is I think they're all tired of that war. Everyone's tired of that war. It's got to stop. Yeah, please.
The U.S. was in active pursuit of a sanctioned oil tanker yesterday. Are you able to share what became of that tanker? Was the U.S. able to seize it?
No, it's moving along, and we'll end up getting it. Yeah, we're actually pursuing it. Can you imagine? Because it came from the wrong location. It came out of Venezuela. and it was sanctioned. Yeah, please.
Ultimate goal in Venezuela to force Maduro from power?
Well, I think it probably would. I can't tell that. That's up to him what he wants to do. I think it would be smart for him to do that. But again, we're going to find out. Look, Venezuela did terrible things to the United States. They sent hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people into our open border. They sent their criminals, they sent their prisoners, they sent their drug dealers, they sent their mentally insane and incompetent people into our country more than any other country. Others did too. The Congo did. Others did too. And we just let them come right in because we were run by a stupid president. But you don't have a stupid president anymore.
Mr. President, have you set up the meeting with the healthcare insurers just yet? And what are you hoping to get?
I'll be setting it up. I think we're going to meet with healthcare, the healthcare insurers, the insurance companies. So what I'm asking for in healthcare is very simple. Obamacare is a disaster. I call it the Unaffordable Care Act. Unaffordable as opposed to it's unaffordable. They're going to have a tremendous increase in premiums, which is Obamacare, which is them, the Democrats' fault. They'll try and blame Republicans. It has nothing to do with us. It's the Democrats' fault. What I want to do is we spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year that go to insurance companies. I want that money to go to the people and let the people buy their own health care. And everybody loves it. It's become our issue. Now, before I do that, I'll meet with the insurance companies, just as I met with the drug companies. As you know, we're meeting with 4 other drug companies, Johnson & Johnson. But they've all agreed. We're meeting with them this week. It's coming up. It'll be a similar meeting. They've all agreed. But nobody would have thought the drug companies were going to do what they did, where they're giving away free drugs. And they've been so great. Okay? And we have most favored nations. Nobody thought that was possible. I don't think any other president ever tried to get it because they never thought they could. But with respect to the insurance companies, I want to meet. There's essentially 14 of them, 10 big, but there's a total of 14 pretty much, pretty big. And I want to meet with them and I want to say, I want you to cut your rates way down, way down. And maybe if they do that, we'll be able to not cut them out. We'll be able to continue to deal with them, which is probably a little easier process. I think the best process is pay the money directly to the people, let them buy their own health care. But I'm going to meet with them the first week back. I do it now, but they're trying to come up with a schedule. They want to meet badly, they've told me, but they want to come up with a schedule. I said, make it a good schedule. Your rates have to come way down. We're also going to meet with other insurance companies because under Biden, the insurance rates have gone through the roof. Auto insurance, home insurance. I mean, insurance companies are making far more than they're entitled to make. So we're going to be doing that. But just in the meantime, we'll be meeting with the insurance companies in the first week, the first few days back in Washington, because they're trying to come up with a proposal that will satisfy me. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. I hope you're going to enjoy the battleships. They're going to be beautiful. Thank you. And have a great Christmas if I don't speak to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
President Trump with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and Secretary of the Navy John Phelan. The Trump class is USS Defiant, this new group of warships made of steel. So the American steel industry really booming back and coming back at the 6 o'clock hour on the East Coast, 3 o'clock on the West Coast, as a deterrent really to not only China, as President Trump was asked that question, but really to the entire world. Peace through strength, the MAGA agenda, and the American First policy really being implemented not only domestically but internationally with this new plan, as President Trump has made it a priority of his to make this American military more robust and more powerful than ever before. And in a way, yes, it is ultimately to counter China to a certain extent because they were projected to have the strongest and mightiest military, specifically the Navy, by 2027. That really changes with a plan like this. So an interesting press conference there from the Southern White House, the Winter White House at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. As President Trump making that announcement on these new steel carriers in the Trump class for the United States Navy, he celebrated 6 years of Space Force on December 20th of 2019. Of course, this is all culminating into the golden era of the United States, 250 years young. Be sure to catch all America First updates right here at RSBN by going to rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. There you can find all the great writings, the op-eds, and the columnists here at the network outside of the broadcast as well. We're very grateful for you and all the viewership during this Hanukkah and Christmas season, as I'm sure you're all getting ready and prepared for the most lovely time of the year. For all my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, in case we don't see you, may you have a very Merry Christmas and God bless you and yours, and a very Happy New Year, as we are your go-to live desk and, of course, your rally network for all things 2026 and beyond. I'm Robert McNeely. Thank you again for tuning in the RSBN afternoon and prime time for this address from President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. In the meantime, we'll see you very soon, and if we don't, Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interviewed the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.